you doing, all you beautiful sons of bitches? It's your boy Backseat, and today we are back at it with freaking Ant. He is running defense for Rachel Zegler, and we got the boys Jeremy, Luckpup, Kino, and Flash. So before we just jump right into this video, what do you guys think Ant is gonna freaking say in this video? Because we all know that he's just gonna... We already went over this, but Jeremy, go ahead.
I'm sorry. I already know everything he's going to say. He's basically just going to go, let's see. The Disney movie, the Snow White movie is bad, but Rachel Zegler is innocent. She did nothing wrong. Every single thing. She's a perfect angel who never did anything wrong. And the judge are just going after her because they're racist and they hate strong women and blah 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 blah. He'll criticize the movie and say, which the Disney live action remakes are bad and hollow, but which in order to avoid the shill accusations, but he's going to throw the tiniest little jabs and then spend most of the video white knighting for Rachel Zegler, demonizing criticisms of her. She'll probably claim take some of the things that she said and spin and steel man it into something that isn't problematic. We already know exactly what the video is going to be. It's basically just going to be throwing light jabs at Disney and running defense for Rachel Zegler. And given the last Anthony video I was responded, it's probably going to have a bunch of ridiculous tangents that have nothing to do with the video in order to pad out the runtime.
Yeah, I agree. I think he's just going to make excuses the entire time and really not address what people really dislike about these live-action reboots.
Flash, Static, any other opening thoughts?
I don't know this creator. I'm just here because
you're in for a ride, man. You're in for a ride.
Anthony, we have a Gramuglia first timer. Oh
no! Oh no! Fuck.
Because of his videos, I found out about him because of the stupid stuff that he said on Twitter, like him insulting insulting Mahler's, Doctor Strange video to Multiverse of Madness video with the classic long man bad stuff. I think the first time I really found out about Ant was, I don't even know when the first time I found about saw Ant's video. I think probably sometime around the time when his infamous YouTube critics are lying to you,
yeah.
Which I haven't seen that video all the way through, but I've seen
it's bad.
I mean, yeah, of course it is. He literally spends the video almost entirely going after right-wing creators, and the only left-wing creators he goes after are Lily Orchard and Anita Sarkeesian.
Oh yeah.
Wow. Two ones that most of the internet already agrees are bad.
Yeah.
The rest are people that range from Mahler and Drinker to people like Just a Robot before the Cinebear stuff.
Yeah.
It's not even
not to interrupt you, but Josiah just joined.
Yeah, hi,
hi,
Schnell.
Hey.
Also, Schnell, can you send your PFP to me? I have yet to make an icon for you. Can you send your Discord PFP to me?
Yeah.
All right, thanks, man.
But all I gotta say is that any people who blindly think that. Wait, no, I'm losing my thought here.
Oh no!
Yeah. Do you love Rachel Zegler?
Regardless, people can say whatever they want. It's not that these Disney live actions can't be good, because almost everybody likes the new trailer for Stitch. So
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. From what I've seen,
I hate the trailer for Stitch personally.
Oh, really?
To be honest, I saw the Lilo and Stitch trailer. I'm kind of neutral on it, to be honest. I mean, it's honestly, the trailer, it doesn't look like it's but the casting is somewhat decent. I'm glad the casting is somewhat decent. The CGI, they look the part. The CGI isn't bad. I definitely agree they should have gotten, there's no reason they couldn't have gotten Ving Rhames back to voice Bubbles. I think the stupidest part of it is the people that are mad at like the trailer not showing Pleakley and cross-dressing, like more because it's like we only saw him for like a single second. Like
Yeah, no.
Yeah,
wait
well,
till we
people
see
also hate the fact that Lilo and Nani weren't darker.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
What?
that's
Yeah, they weren't the
Yeah.
right shade of Hawaiian.
yeah.
Of course.
They're being colorist. Yeah. Real fucking progressive
Yeah.
Disney
All
fans.
I gotta
going.
say is,
even though they
all
are,
I gotta
even
say
though
is
they're played
that
by
the
actual
character
Hawaiians.
writing. All I gotta say is the character writing. It hits. Like it feels like it's the same characters.
Ah,
my god!
what the hell was that?
I don't know what that is.
I don't know.
Again, like the thing about the Lilo and Stitch remake, like it's probably not going to be as good, but it's definitely not going to be like Lion King or Mulan. Like it's
Mufasa.
probably going to fall somewhere between. Probably going to fall somewhere between the remakes. Like it's probably going to fall like in between, like somewhere along the edge of like the Cinderella 2015 and the Jungle Book, like I think the two only actually good Disney live action remakes because they somewhat invented the story. This one at the very least seems like it's just going to be a fairly straightforward reenactment of Lilo and Stitch without really anything. And to be honest, it's like it definitely doesn't seem to be like as soul-suckingly bad as some of the others. So it's probably just going to come and go without any real fanfare, to be honest.
I'm gonna be completely honest. I found every single live action remake to be absolutely garbage. Like they appeal to the lowest common denominator to people who think that animated movies aren't actual movies because they aren't played by it isn't in live action. I think that's a stupid notion, and frankly, I find them all to just be really dumbed down compared to their animated counterparts. Like I hated Mulan. I hated the live action.
Oh, don't get me
Beauty
started on
and the Beast.
Mulan.
I hated the Little Mermaid. I've hated them all because why would I ever choose to watch these instead of the animated versions that I have fond memories of?
Right, like
And that's
not even
and their musicals and the musical segments hit unlike the musical segments in these movies, and the themes just don't make any sense. But we'll probably get into this once we
Yeah.
start the video.
Also, Josiah dropped out before he died of cringe before the video even began, but whatever. I got his icon. I'll make it for him next time when he shows up. But yeah, we've dilly-dallied enough. Let's get on with it. Jeremy, play it away.
Okay, let me just take it away, Anthony.
Disney's live-action Snow White was DOA the moment they announced it.
True.
Oh wow, look, having an actual good take. What is? My God, who are you, and what have you done with the real Anthony?
But why is it dead on arrival? That we can't call it
because
a good
nobody asked for it. Because
Yes.
nobody asked for it. Because nobody asked for it. Not to mention, Snow White is one of the most like adapted. If any Disney live action remake didn't need it, like in addition to Snow White not even being literally the first 2D animated movie ever made, there are so many adaptations, rewrites, parodies of Snow White. What is there left to do? Snow White has been beaten into the ground by like several creators. They've been faithful adaptations, unfaithful. Why do we need a new Snow White remake? There's been so many. What reason? Oh, and notice how it says Snow White. It's just Snow White and not Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs.
Yeah, fuck you, dwarf.
Yeah, well-
Fuck you, dwarves.
Yeah, well, again, like I won't give Ant credit just yet because let's see his reasoning. Because even if it seems like he has a good take, he always manages to throw some mental gymnastics to make you
True, but
think,
let's-
"Oh,
you know,
yeah,
true,
this
but,
is
like,
actually bad."
Let's see him actually try to present the point and not bring up a bunch of irrelevant stuff to try to make him sound smart that actually means
Yeah.
nothing. And let's see
Oh,
how long
God,
it
yeah,
actually
Well, you
takes
see,
him
in,
to
well, you see in the
explain
original, well, you see in the original story, Snow White was blonde, so it's totally okay if Snow White's Mexican in this version or whatever the hell she is. I don't know.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, yeah, is DOA and right wingers don't get why. Yeah, watch.
Yeah, well,
He's
let's
basically
play
doing
Oh,
the video.
what
See what happens.
Christ.
Let's just play the video.
her hated is because she's brown and wokeness and not any of the reasons that people hate it, which people like Drinker and Nerdrotic share. But again, people like Ant would rather jump into a pile of sharks then admit that the chuds are actually normal people who agree with them.
Yes.
Jeremy, can you play the video? I want to see what he has to say.
All right.
This isn't because it's woke or because of Rachel's.
Did I call it? Did I call it or what? I called it. That's literally what I said. He literally was going to be, oh, they just think it's woke and blah, blah, blah.
Fuck's sake, man.
Right after. God, it's predictable.
Okay, if it's not woke, then what is it?
Here's the thing, okay? Here's what woke.
Well, let me hear what he has to
Unfunny.
say.
It's straight up unfunny because I watched the trailer and I'm an easy person to please, okay? But I did
Simple
not crack
Flash.
a smile once. I'm a simple man. I see
Simple
something
Flash.
mildly funny. Yeah, I see something mildly funny. I laugh. That whole trailer, I did not crack a smile. It failed to entertain. Simple as that.
All right, let's see what he has to say.
Okay, yeah.
Gal Gadot, anyone could have been behind the camera or in front of it, and it would still be DOA.
I mean, he's right about that.
Mhm,
but
Snow
yeah.
White won't be bad because
Yeah.
of any inherent choice made with this film, but rather with the way Disney produces their films entirely. Disney live
Wait,
action
pause.
adaptations-
Oh, no, come
that's
on,
That's a
man.
contradiction. That is a contradiction. Snow White won't
hold
be
on.
bad
I'm sorry,
by
I need
any
to rewind.
inherent choice for
I'm
this
sorry,
film.
wait.
Let me finish, Jeremy, let me finish. So
I'm
Snow
sorry, I
White
just-
won't be bad by any inherent choice with this film, but rather with the way Disney produces their films entirely. We're not even a minute into this, and we're
Which is a
already here with the
collection of
contradiction.
choices.
We're
That's
already
the
here with the
thing.
contradiction. How can you say that the problem lies with how Disney produces their films, and at the same time say that has nothing to do with any inherent choice with the film? How a studio produces a film is still an inherent choice. Like, what is he talking about?
Because that's the thing. Because these people, in order to, what they do is rather than blaming the actual people involved, they blame the nebulous studios. That way they can avoid criticizing people like Rachel Zegler and Kathleen Kennedy and all that, while still being like, oh, see, we're criticizing the bad people. We're not shills, we promise, guys. And it's like,
Oh,
yeah,
no,
they're
we're not
right.
shilling for Disney.
The thing is, they're
Okay.
all right. Studios are like, for example, like when Organized Chaos responded to the EFAP on the Chris Stuckman Madam Web video, he was all, wait a minute, Drinker's saying that the studio wanted to make a good movie. Is he defending the studio? No, he isn't. He's saying that the studio wanted, Madam Web to be good in order for it to make a profit, because unless you're the characters from Mel Brooks's
The producers.
you want the movie to be good, because good movies make money. Because it's like, again, various people are at fault. It's not just the studios. The director can be at fault. The writer can be at fault. And yes, Anthony, even the actors and actresses can be at fault.
Okay, let's hear him talk a little bit more before we go full rant.
Yeah,
because
Yeah,
sorry.
well, before you play it
got
again,
me
let
a minute in. But yeah,
me just say something. So I think you're right to an extent, Jeremy. I feel like Anthony seriously thinks that producers or studio executives are completely incapable of having his same mindset or opinions and are just like a caricature of greedy businessmen who only ever think about how they can make more money. But let's just see what he says.
Yeah.
DOA. Snow White won't be bad because of any inherent choice made with this film, but rather with the way Disney produces their films entirely. Disney live-action adaptations have been widely dismissed by most critics as cheap attempts, or in some cases, highly expensive attempts, to cash in on childhood nostalgia.
True.
It's taking
Correct.
the familiar and putting a new spin on it, a new coat of paint, one might say. It's something the Disney company has had great success with in the past, but as time goes on, the gimmick wears thin.
Little Mermaid may actually have barely, by the scale of its fins, swam to a little bit of profitability.
But I think there's something
Now hold on, pause it for a
What
quick
the hell?
second. This is just a question for you. This
by the
is just a
scale of
question
its
for you
fins.
guys. This is just a question for you guys. Do you think that they could just Disney could just release or just like play the animated films in theaters and they would still get that same result? Or do you think?
I think they
this is
make
also
more
solely-
money.
Honestly,
solely because
they
of
would.
live action.
They would.
mean-
If they just remaster it and put it on a big screen, people will go see it. That's
A
really
bunch
that
of
simple.
people would flock to
Because
those
that's what people want to see. They
Yeah.
want to see more of that classic Disney 2D animation because that's where the magic was. That's where all the nostalgia comes from, was just how it made you feel seeing it up on the screen.
Yeah, I feel the
Not
same
the
way
not the
because
live
honestly,
action movies, not 3D animation.
yeah, I honestly feel the same way because I have a local theater here that plays indie movies, and sometimes they occasionally play classic movies uh, that have hit theaters decades ago, like The Big Lebowski, Raging Bull, etc. And when I go to see those, the theaters are packed. It's a small theater, mind you, but there's still an interest for people to go see these movies that they've already seen before because they like the feeling. They like the feeling of nostalgia to see their favorite movies in a theater again.
Oh
Yeah, with
yeah.
all these Disney obsessed women, some of them may even not like the live action, but tons of them would fill those theaters for the classic movies, especially.
Exactly. Disney adults are a real demographic.
Yeah.
They
They
are.
they always
Yes.
go to Disney World every year.
Plus, but going off of what Flash and Kino are going on about, I think with the 2D stuff, I think also because there's just a genuine desire for like actual fucking big actual 2D movies because I feel like 3D has kind of lost its luster. And it's just everywhere. People there, I think there really is just a genuine desire to see a legit 2D animated movie instead of a 3D movie. I know that they'll never do it because, Home on the Ranch failed and, Princess and the Frog and Winnie the Pooh didn't help things. But, I think there is still that fucking hunger out there. And even then,
Yeah.
I don't really think Disney even has anyone working there who could even fucking make a 2D movie anymore. I think that's pretty much why Wish was 3D. I don't think there's really anyone at Disney who can make a 2D movie anymore. So it's just sadly the situation we're in, but yeah, anyway.
I mean, like to jump off the point I was talking at, or jump back to the point I was talking about the 2D animation, and how yes, that's what a lot of people are wanting to see because in our area of the world, that's a very rare thing. But you've seen in recent years the trend of like anime hitting the mainstream.
Mm-hmm.
It shows that there is a market for that kind of animation, yet they're not tapping into it whatsoever.
No.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's because they basically just don't see it as, even though it is a big thing, they want to appeal to the normie crowd. Like basically the people that Mr. Grizzy makes fun of in his shill videos. Like the people that are
The
unquestioning
normies.
like because they are people who will be impressed with anything. They like the worst they'll say is
I
guess
am
that
someone who can be impressed by anything, and I wasn't impressed by Snow White.
like, that's the market for these people. Because it's like that's who they're appealing to. They appeal to these people because they don't have standards. They don't have standards to ask for better. Like you can literally make a movie and the worst they will say is that was just kind of bad. Like will literally range from that was kind of bad to oh my god, this is the next Citizen Kane. Oh my god, oh my god, and they will literally like because it's like why cater to an audience of like people like who despite being massive still have enough standards to call out their stuff when you can cater to an equally big argument of people that will basically like anything. It's basically free.
Yeah,
It's
and
basically
It's free money.
It's
You're
basically
absolutely right.
Mhm.
But at what
yeah,
point
and
does
I'll
the
yeah,
at what point does
I'm
the
probably
free money?
giving him too. I'm probably giving him too much credit, but Anthony seems to acknowledge that these movies, these live action movies, aren't good, but doesn't want to acknowledge that the politics or ideas associated with the creation of these movies has anything to do with them being bad.
Yes.
It's basically cognitive dissonance, similar to how when Velma came out. Velma was the show that basically like ruined their movement.
Yes.
Like with other stuff like that came out, they kind of like hide it. Velma was basically out in the open with everything that people like Critical Drinker have been saying about media for years. So people like Ant. So basically, these people people, like, basically they tried to, because they couldn't defend it because it got so much hate. So they basically tried to pretend, it's just bad because it's a bad adaptation. It's bad because it was a right-wing psyop, even though Mindy Kaling is literally on their side.
Yeah.
In fact, they also did that.
It literally gave a middle finger to everything we love about Scooby-Doo.
Yes.
And I'm just going to point out that we're probably like 20 minutes into recording and only 1 minute into the video.
Yes, we are. We are.
Dang it.
One more thing. And I don't know if any of you guys remember this, but they also they tried to pin this. There was a Netflix animated reboot of the show Good Times, and basically they try the woke people tried to pin this on, like, people in like r/Soldier Than Crave were literally making memes about how somehow this movie was the fault of anti-woke people.
Oh, for fuck's sake!
No. We're not having another Velma on our hands. We are shutting this down. We're putting this on these people.
Yeah,
because,
great.
again, causing dissonance, because they can't defend the media because it's so hated, but they can't fully bash it for the correct reasons. So they basically have to, like, skirt around the elephant in the room, essentially.
Oh my god, that show
Let's
had
get back to Ant's video.
That show had Esther rolling in her grave. Anyway,
moving
about this Snow White film that has got ability. But I think there's something particular about this Snow White film that has gotten a lot of attention. There's something a little different about the live action adaptation series versus the adaptations in the 90s they did, or the 90s cartoons, or the IP-driven rides in Disney parks, or even the direct-to-video sequels. On a fundamental level, the live-action films fail for a few key reasons.
Are you really the last person to find out about the skip ads forever button? This is Pi, and if it sounds familiar to you, it's probably...
I just chilled out for YouTube Premium after I was on my friend's, but he had to cancel.
Oh no.
Okay, so let's hear Anthony's reason.
This Snow White film, in particular, has seemed to capture the ire of the critical landscape, especially right-wing critics online.
There we go. There's Drinker.
Yeah, well, let's see what he has to complain about first. Like, let play.
Okay, but yeah, it's like...
So winning formula with their next live-action remake, Snow White and the Seven Dwarves. Oh wait, sorry. Snow White and the Seven Magical Diverse Gender Non-Conforming Vertically Challenged Creatures.
We all knew.
That's funny.
But again, it's like, and it's the whole ants thing.
It's just a joke.
Again, let just play
Snow
out
White
before he makes a point.
And the Seven Dwarves, or Snow Brown and the
You
Seven
think he's
going to
make a point?
Was going to be a disaster.
Oh, pretty racist song.
No, it isn't.
There's his point.
Also, don't insult Kay and Peele by bringing them down into your BS. Kay and Peele are actually funny.
Yeah.
Just get to...
Yeah, so at risk of sounding completely tone deaf, what about Jeremy or Critical Drinker's statements were remotely racist? That is how Disney is marketing these types of movies, because that's their entire selling point. Come see the exact same story you can watch in the comfort of your own home, but done with
a few extra brown people,
but done worse, and the princess is now race swapped. It's now racist to call them out for being lazy. And also, just a few minutes before, or just a few seconds before, he just said that these movies aren't liked by most critics because they're cheap knockoffs of the original. Mm-hmm. What makes these quote-unquote right-wing critics' takeaways radically different from the critics saying this same thing? Because they're more upfront and honest?
Yeah, it's like and you do realize that these right-wing critics can also call them like cheap cash grabs and whatnot. It's like saying it's a cheap cash grab and saying it's fucking stupid that they made a handful of characters, not white when they were in the original. They're not mutually exclusive. You can make those two criticisms at once, It's like, ugh.
But again, always forget you can say two things that's different at once.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're both saying that
you can do things different if you just do it right.
Yes.
How hard is that?
Yeah.
It's like they'll always bring up like, oh, well, what about Samuel L. Jackson as Nick Fury, ignoring how that wasn't something that like for A, Samuel L. Jackson is awesome, and B, it wasn't like Disney Marvel was like, oh my god, Nick Fury is black now. Look how woke we are. They were just like, oh, here's Nick Fury. He's a character. Whereas
It's all
Disney
about
has
the intention.
done this like whole for millionth gay character thing time and time again, and that's why we hate it. We're gonna hate it because the thing is,
you shouldn't put something in a film just to check off a film, a game, anything like that, just to check off a box. If you're gonna put something in there, it has to have substance. It has to work, and there are many cases where these things do. But there's much more where it doesn't, because people just want to fill a quota.
Yes.
And again, people like Anthony don't want to admit that, because here's where the whole anti-chud grift lies. People like Anthony's audience don't want to wrestle with the reality that corporations like Disney don't care about them. They don't care about representation. They don't care about anything other than cold hard cash. They are not super progressive. They're not even super bigoted. They're just people who want money.
Jeremy, remember, Ant's umbrage with corporations when they do that is that they're not doing it the right way. Ant is one of them motherfuckers who are like, it's never good enough, as we all know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's totally not because his ideas are terrible, no matter how.
And what people like Anthony do, Anthony do is it's like, no, it's not this incredibly messy, nuanced battle of like the corporations don't care about us, but at the same time they do good things. No, instead it's this evil chud army, people like the Drinker and Mahler and Neurotic and all these other people. They're evil bad guys. They're ruining everything, not the corporations, because it's like they don't want to engage with that reality and instead want to battle with this imaginary chud army, because simply put, these people are cowards.
Yes.
With a filthy. They don't want
30 minutes to 2 minutes.
We gotta keep going. We gotta keep going.
I'm just gonna be the timekeeper at this point.
Yeah. Oh,
sorry.
Yeah, pretty racist, I guess.
Racist against who?
But I feel the majority of these critics just don't actually get why this film is going to fail.
The problems began early on with the casting of Rachel Zegler as Snow White. Now, why was this a problem, you might ask? Well, the original German folktale describes the character as follows. Snow White had lips red as a rose, hair black as ebony, and skin white as snow. Skin white as snow. Skin white as snow.
I'm sorry. One thing. This is another straw man. They will take clips like that, like with Drinkers criticizing that. They will act like it's the only thing they ever criticize. Yes, Critical Drinker criticized that, but he also criticizes live action remakes for the reasons that Anthony and people like him agree with.
Yes.
It's the same thing. They're not saying wokeness is a problem. They're saying wokeness and other things is a problem. But the thing is, people like Anthony just want to pretend, close their eyes, ears, and go, la la la, it doesn't exist, it doesn't exist. And yeah, she is literally described in the book as that. Like, you can't.
Yeah, according to Anthony, Snow White is inherently a racist story because drinkers simply coined the story. It's in her goddamn name. Like, she is white.
Mm-hmm. Meanwhile, these people. Meanwhile, people like Anthony will not give a cent to actually good, like, movie original. Like, for example, Black Diamond. Like, for example, there's so many like good, black movies.
Princess and the Frog is like a very direct and straightforward one.
But they're not going to support them because they're not part of this big, massive franchise.
No.
More of the story, I failed college logic, and even I can make a better argument than this guy.
Yes.
Moving on.
Yes.
Press play.
Sure, okay.
Hey, stop that. That's racist.
What? What is racist about it?
One of the key components of live-action Disney is to fix old Disney.
We invite you to open your hearts and minds to the magical worldview of pedantic nitpickers who point out plot holes in fairy tales, which we are now kowtowing to, apparently. Here's a movie for you, guy who kept pointing out that according to Matt, the prince was only 11 when he got turned into a beast. That's pretty messed up, right? That's not logical. Open your heart like the pedantic who opines, how did the town forget that the monarch had disappeared? Plot hole, ding! Wow. I hate it.
Oh, hi,
A lot of
cunt.
these films have received.
It's just pure cringe.
Yes.
Well,
ever since
what
since Lindsay Ellis stopped being nostalgia chick, she's been cringe.
Yeah, well, I don't like Lindsay Ellis either, but I think what Ant's trying to communicate is actually something we kind of agree with, I guess, because he's saying that the problem with these live-action remakes is that they try to retroactively fix things that aren't actually issues.
Mhm,
Is that what
yes.
that's what I got from it? Is that what you guys got from it?
Yes.
Which, like, the thing about it is, like, that's not really a good point, because honestly, that whole magic plot hole was one of the few things that the original live action, that the live action Beauty and the Beast remake did right. Because, yeah, it is a pretty massive plot hole that this entire town forgot the servants, but it's like, oh, they just did, like, a little magic thing. Yeah, that's a pretty solid way to fix the plot hole. Does it justify the movie? No, but that was like, but you're blaming it on one of the few things. And you know why he did that? Because he hates EFAB. And because he hates how they have the gall to actually have standards and not just consume product and pay it. And again, it's like, and obviously that wasn't Anthony's clip. It was Lindsay Ellis's. Really using that to represent his view the way he used the Key and Peele sketch earlier. Because again, is don't consume product and all that. Again, sorry,
From now on, I'm going to indicate that the conversation should move on by the words "Ant bad."
Yes.
So if we start going too far on a tangent, I will just say "Ant bad."
All
And
right.
request play.
Ant bad.
I'm sorry. I'm still kind of new to this whole
Ant bad.
Yeah.
Mom, I apologize.
No problem, man. No problem. I understand that. Like, the thing is, there is so much we can talk about that we can get sidetracked like that.
Yeah,
you're right.
Yeah.
Of varying degrees of intensity over the years. Some of it is very justified, and other criticisms are mimetic in how they misrepresent the original text.
This is something we can talk about, I feel. Yeah. How do you get? I feel as though most accusations of racism with their old movies is very overblown. What do you guys think?
Yes.
I'm kind of It's like, here's the thing about the racism in terms of, like, for example, I will agree that there are definitely points in the text that that definitely haven't aged. Like the Siamese cats, like he brought up the Siamese cats earlier. Yeah, those definitely didn't age well. Same with similar, and you can discuss that, and it is definitely valid to point that out. However, I feel like
I wouldn't even agree with that, to be honest. Like in the case of the Lady and the Tramp, the cats are Siamese cat with Chinese dialect. Like they're obviously from China, like and they're cats. Like I wouldn't really make a distinction between like a real life person from China with like fictional cats.
Yeah,
I mean,
in that case, it'd be more about what they did or said rather than how they said it.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's not their identity that's the problem. It's if that identity is used in a malicious way.
Yeah, but in that case, I feel like another thing to take note of is that during this time frame, you had to take into account like Disney were pioneers in trying to like actually be representative of everybody, like actually trying to get diverse backgrounds into their films. So were they clumsy about doing it? Yeah, but
perhaps.
I think we should look in the intentions of it too.
Like, yeah, I could put example Snow White has a very simplistic story to it. Snow White as a character is very poorly developed.
Very
but like
dry, yeah.
It was literally the first film of its kind. So they were kind of more focused on perfecting like the whole technique of 2D animation than they were on, making a good story. And plus you have to keep in mind, this is like, because it's like there in terms of the whole like it was a different time. There are certain things that it doesn't apply to, but there are certain things that it does. Because it's like a lot of this stuff was made at a simpler time when certain things weren't as perceived as they were now. Now we see them as bad, but in the time they were made, some of them might have been, some of them might have not. I definitely do personally, there are definitely layers. My opinion is, I personally think it is valid to criticize, especially something like what makes the red man red, because wow, that was just that's really bad. Even back then, no, that's just straight up one of the most bigoted portrayals of Native Americans.
You gotta admit, it's a pretty catchy song, though. You gotta admit.
Yeah, it's a catchy song, but wow.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree that there was definitely racism back then, but at the same time, I think it's worth pointing out that a lot of the accusations that's thrown at Disney of being racist really aren't racist, because I hear this lie that's perpetuated all the time that Walt Disney somehow hated Jews when there's no evidence of that whatsoever. And
I have no idea where that came from. No.
Yeah, this might be a hot take, but people say that the most racist film from them, like Song of the South, it's not really that racist.
Not really. Not really. No.
I saw the cinema.
Was okay. All it did was portray a black man happy during a time that wasn't really good for people who are African American. It wasn't condoning the people their treatment. It was just acknowledging that you could there's a jolly black narrator guy running around. So what?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah. If anything, honestly, I mean, yeah. I saw the Cinema Snob review Song of the South, and to be honest, it really was not that bad. Has it aged the best? Probably not. But really, it's a movie that honestly, I mean, I guess there are some the Tar Baby. I could definitely see someone taking that the wrong way. But overall, it is definitely tame, especially when you compare it to something like Mickey Rooney's character in Breakfast at Tiffany's. That's pretty bad. Whereas with this one, really, aside, the worst it does in terms of actual racism is probably portraying slavery in a sort of not whole holy, I don't even remember, I don't even really know the words, but it's in terms it may have not aged the best, but it's nowhere near the Birth of a Nation horribly racist screed that so many try it as.
Oh no.
If anything, honestly, yeah, it's there's definitely nuance to this discussion.
Yeah. Do you think you could go back a bit, because I want to see what else he said besides racism?
Oh, he also mentioned the Beauty and the Beast Stockholm thing, which let
him play. We'll play the video, so I
justified, and other criticisms are mimetic in how they misrepresent the original text.
Okay.
But yeah, I agree with that. The whole idea that Beauty and the Beast is Stockholm Syndrome is one of the dumbest. People throw a lot of shills throw around media literacy and being media
literacy.
No, it is not. Yes, Belle literally went to the castle of her own volition solely to free her father, and yeah, she didn't just Stockholm Syndrome her way into falling in love with the Beast. They at first they hated each other, but then Belle slowly realized, oh hey, the Beast isn't this bad of a person. He has some good elements, and they grew as a couple overall as the film goes on. It's similar to how in a rom-com the main couple will start hating each other, but as the time goes on, they will find love in each other. They'll find common ground. They'll begin to enjoy each other's company, and by the end of the film, it's the classic enemies to lovers.
Enemies
thing,
to lovers, yeah.
Oh my god.
Something I find funny about the whole Stockholm Syndrome debate is that depending on who you talk to in Ant's little sphere of his, they'll either say that Stockholm Syndrome is a completely real thing that should be taken seriously, to saying that's a complete propaganda perpetuated by the police to make them to make people more sympathetic towards them. That is something I actually hear people say.
Oh my.
I've literally never heard.
Okay, we're like
Also-
40 minutes in and 3 minutes in.
Also, one more thing. It's Beauty and the Beast ain't Stockholm syndrome. It's Lima syndrome. Moving on.
I don't know what
I'll
that
have
is.
to do research on that later. Okay.
What's the distinction between the two?
Lima
if you don't mind me
syndrome
asking?
is when the captor becomes sympathetic to the captive.
Oh, okay.
I mean, to be fair, like the Beast needed to fall in love with
Belle
someone,
to
or,
break the curse.
you know,
Yeah.
all of the serpents would die, so he didn't really
Plot
have a choice.
convenience. Let's call
Yes,
it that.
plot convenience.
Disney movies are the first fully formed moral universe that we're all exposed to, and they all follow a simple, straightforward guideline. The uglier you are, the worse you are. The Hunchback of Notre Dame.
Also,
No, that's not
this
true at all.
dude on the
Like,
right is fucking punchable, man. But anyway, go on.
Yeah,
Actually used to watch
No, there are
Crack.
tons of ugly characters that are portrayed heroically. Like, what is he talking about?
I mean,
No, he's probably saying that's like something that appears in the world of Disney movies a lot. Like from other characters' perspective. Not from our perspective as we see these characters as genuinely good people.
Okay.
Yeah. I actually used to watch Cracked like a lot. Like I watched some of I didn't watch the series After Hours, but I did watch a lot of other ones. The guy on the right that you said was punchable, his name is Daniel O'Brien, and he had a show called Obsessive
Pop Culture Detective. Ugh.
And I kind of watched that. Like I watched some of their like videos on media and stuff. Then all of a sudden they completely just stopped uploading.
Yeah.
They just completely removed, and I just kind of moved on to other people. But yeah, I watched Crack's videos a fair bit.
Daniel made an Aladdin video and it was so fucking dumb. I gotta send it to y'all later. It's dumb. Anyway.
I don't remember if I saw that one or not.
In love with this beautiful woman, even saves her just like he's supposed to. But does he get?
Oh yeah, one more thing. I don't know. Oh, Cody Johnston from Some More News also started out on Cracked as well.
Oh.
I don't know if any.
I hate that guy.
But yeah, he also started out on Cracked as well. I remember seeing a couple sketches.
Okay, yeah. So getting back to this guy though, like, what is he saying? Like,
This video is gonna be longer than a NASCAR race.
I'm sorry, Flash.
He gets the right to go out in public.
I haven't even had dinner yet.
Blonde, handsome
Wait, go back a
shithead gets
bit.
the girl. Guy who wasn't even in the book in the first place.
Christ, Phoebus is in the book. Didn't
Jeremy,
you
can
read
you go
it?
back a bit?
Many people
Fully formed moral universe that we're all exposed to.
text.
Disney movies are the first fully formed moral universe that we're all exposed to, and they all follow a simple, straightforward guideline. The uglier you are, the worse you are. The Hunchback of Notre Dame. Quasimodo falls in love with this beautiful woman, even saves her just like he's supposed to. But does he get the girl? No. He gets the right to go out in public. The blonde, handsome shithead gets the girl. Guy who wasn't even in the book in the first place.
Christ, Phoebus
Yeah,
is in
okay,
the
so
book.
pause
Didn't
real
you
quick.
read it?
I'm just going to say real quick, since this isn't the main subject of the video, but that's a dumb criticism. Like, he doesn't need to get the girl. That's not bad writing.
Yeah.
Yeah, agreed.
No, like you know, being able to be yourself and accepted is what was important in the end.
Yes.
You don't need to justify his struggles with, you know, getting the girl. He gets one in the second movie, right?
Yeah, no, but that movie sucked.
Yeah, all
I think
like direct to DVD
all
or
of
video
them.
Disney movies suck.
Yeah. It's
I don't know. I
it's
liked
really-
Return of Jafar.
There are tons of great movies where the hero doesn't get the girl at the end, or where the object isn't even like a girl. That's like such a dumb criticism.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, especially if you're trying to
criticize-
say, oh yeah, like if you're ugly,
guy wouldn't-
don't bother being a good guy. Ugh.
Anyway.
Oh, you muted.
Yeah.
it.
Okay, but yeah, let's get back.
Phoebus
to
is in the book. Didn't you read it? Many people have criticized the way Disney represents racial minorities in their films. These criticisms run the gambit of criticizing overt racist stereotypes, as in Song of the South, Peter Pan, Dumbo, to the more nuanced and less obvious criticisms. Pocahontas, for example, relies heavily on several problematic tropes, among them being the noble.
Oh, for
A
fuck's
noble
sake.
savage.
Right, let's just play it. Let's just play it.
Well, first off, like, it's bizarre that he would even make this criticism, because let's just be honest here. I feel as though I think Pocahontas like does like indigenous tribes a lot of service in their portrayal, because if we base it off of actual history, a lot of them do not mirror moral standards.
Yeah.
to say lightly, a lot of them raped, killed, and pillaged from each other.
Yeah.
Just constantly. And in the movie, they are portrayed as like victims.
Yeah.
Like the main villain is a white colonialist.
Yeah. Also, just to be very brief, for those who don't know and don't want to read this, the noble savages trope is basically when quote-unquote uncivilized people are shown as being morally superior to civilized people. That's basically it.
Okay.
Anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Savage and the eroticization of indigenous people.
She's super hypersexualized, but I liked when she's, reacted to him calling her a savage, because I think that's what a lot of people think still to this day.
Pocahontas, in reality, historically, was a young girl. She was taken and forced to marry John Smith against her will, and it wasn't a beautiful love story.
She had a lot of trauma in her life that when I read the story a long time ago, I really related to, because I think a lot of our people are still to this day suffering from the trauma
for
they
fuck's
experienced.
sake.
Well, some have.
Okay, okay, whoop-de-doo. All these people are thin-skinned, Zant. What's your point?
I mean, yeah.
Criticized Aladdin for basing Aladdin more on Tom Cruise than an actual person from the Middle East.
What's wrong with that?
Is he saying that? Is he saying that people who aren't white don't admire Tom Cruise?
No, he's basically saying you can't base a non-white character off a white man, basically.
Yeah, it's not like Aladdin had a magical genie who was essentially a magical genie who made several pop culture references.
Yeah.
Based on people who would be alive, like ignoring the theory that Aladdin for the sake of this, there's a theory that Aladdin
takes place in a post-apocalyptic future, yeah.
Ignoring that, assuming it did take in the past for this analogy, it takes place. So the genie making pop culture references to people that wouldn't exist for hundreds of years, assuming this movie actually does take place in the past. It's fine. That's perfectly fine. But oh my God, Aladdin isn't authentically based on an actual person from the Middle East. And that's the problem. This is where the concept of suspension of disbelief comes in.
Yes.
Suspension of disbelief applies to minor things that may or may not have a huge effect on the movie, not massive plot holes that have huge effects on the movie. Not every single plot hole falls under suspension of disbelief.
Yes.
It's such a
I wonder what Ant would say to someone who is a non-white author or writer basing a non-white character off of a white character.
Yeah.
I wonder what he would say to someone like that.
Mm-hmm.
His brain will probably explode.
Yes. And I'll be there to see it. Anyway.
I think of all the criticisms, though, one of the ones that gained the most traction but also lacked the most meaning was levied against Beauty and the Beast, where during the 2000s, especially thanks to Cracked.com and other sites like that, it became incredibly popular to refer to the relationship between Belle and the Beast as a form of Stockholm Syndrome.
Wow, and you're about the 26 millionth person to make this hot take? Yeah, I read that correct article from 5 years ago, too.
Stockholm Syndrome is a pseudo-scientific social theory about how captives form a bond with their captors.
Stockholm Syndrome describes a psychological phenomenon where hostages, kidnapping victims, and victims of abuse develop intense emotional ties to their captors
I'm sorry. One thing. That's another thing. Belle wasn't kidnapped. She went to the castle of her own volition to save her father.
I think they're about to make that point.
Yeah, just wanted to make that point.
Abusers as a survival strategy. The name refers to an incident in Stockholm, Sweden in 1973 when 4 hostages who had been taken captive by bank robbers eventually refused to testify against their captors.
The thing is that the syndrome focuses on the captive reinterpreting the captor's actions to be benevolent. But Belle does not change exactly. She pushes against the Beast and in multiple occurrences leaves of her own volition. She leaves the Beast entirely, and the Beast lets her go each time.
I had to.
Yes, but why?
Because I love her.
She only changes her perspective when the Beast changes his perspective. The Beast changes for her. She doesn't change for the Beast. The Beast becomes a kinder person. And again, I reiterate, at the peak of their affections for each other, he lets her go to tend to her father, who's sick and ailing in the cold, because he cares more about her happiness than about having her there. She could salvage the entire castle and all the curse and break all of it, but he cares more about her happiness than his own. And that's beautiful. That's poetic. It's not at all like Stockholm Syndrome, where the person who's held captive kind of twists their perspective to justify the actions of their captor. But the problem is this criticism was made so often.
Just saying, I call
I
it.
think he's right. Like this is. I mean, he's right. Like it isn't based off Stockholm Syndrome. Like I don't disagree.
This is really weird because, like, I mean, aside from calling the Rachel Zegler criticism racist, Ant's honestly been on point for most of this video.
It's so weird to be agreeing with Ant. It's such an alien feeling, man.
Keep in
I'm
mind,
the newbie, so I'm just fine.
Although, to be honest, it can probably be because these are incredibly cold takes. Like, oh wow, the Disney live-action remakes are bad. The idea that Beauty and the Beast is about Stockholm Syndrome is a disingenuous take. Like,
Yeah,
no,
it's like saying that the Super Mario Brothers is all about the plumbers being on an acid trip with mushrooms or something.
Yeah.
It's basically
a very, very stupid video.
He said that water is a liquid. Wow, like it's the most like he's right, but it's the most surface level things. And given how it's an Ant video, you know he's going to immediately ruin this goodwill by saying incredibly.
No, my issue is actually
Ant bad.
Yes, my issue with him is that yes, like everything he's saying is correct, but it seems to me that he's saying that people like Jeremy or the Quartering or Critical Drinker are not making these same criticisms. When last I checked years ago, people have been making these criticisms. Like I don't think he said anything that they would oppose or that they wouldn't bring up.
Yeah, exactly. They want to pretend because the thing is, because a lot of anti-woke people make these kinds of criticisms, but because they don't have the because they don't have the political biases of people like Ant, what they basically do is they clip them out of context and only clip the photos of them criticizing stuff like of like that, and it's like they only ever show it and act like that's the only thing they say, and the few times they ever do criticize anything else, they act like it's a smoke screen. It's basically the equivalent of mental gymnastics, because like 90% of these claims could be disproven by actually watching their content, which is something Ant's audience would never do.
No.
Like they would never do like what we're doing right now with watching Ant's video and going through it. They wouldn't touch a Critical Drinker video unless it was an out of context clip or some person like Ant watching it, because they just want to hate the bully. They don't want to wrestle with reality. They just want to blame Critical Drinker and the Chud Army as this nebulous villain that's ruining everything because they have black and white thinking.
And one more thing I'll say about that. And if they do watch your videos, they'll go, "Oh well, your audio sucks. I'm not watching anymore." All right, moving on.
Coward.
So relentlessly that Disney as a company decided to solve the problem of being the Beast. A lot of criticism at the time, and to this day, focuses entirely on fixing a film's problems, finding issue with it, and solving it in some creative way. Problem is, Disney's corporation's method was to solve it in a way that was very underwhelming, disappointing, one that diminished the quality and merits of the original narrative therein. The question of, what's this character's motivation? What's their backstory? Why is Belle's mom not in the movie? Why is LeFou Gaston's little toady? Is there something going on between them? Is it gay? You know, what is that?
No,
and
that was
these
a
are
question
nitpicks,
you were
essentially.
asking.
Yeah. Which that was another thing, like, LeFou and Gaston did not need to be a couple. Like,
no.
LeFou in the original movie was basically like how Syndrome was, like how incredible it was. Like, yeah, and it's like, you can have two characters. Like, I'm all for well-written, like, gay couples, but, like, so many people just think, oh my god, these two characters, like, interact for more than 5 seconds in a somewhat interaction-y way. They must be a couple.
According to those people's logic, if you have a jersey of an athlete with an athlete's name on it, then you're really gay.
Yes.
I mean, it's like, yeah, it's like platonic relationships exist, and I'm sick of people pretending that they don't.
Yeah.
Don't really mean anything with the original film, yet the Disney Corporation took as something to correct. And oh boy, did they correct the film.
But I corrected them, sir.
These criticisms are obviously not equal in terms of what they're trying to say. Yet, to a corporation, they're all the same and should be overcorrected to appeal to the current market in much the same way. Belle isn't just an outsider in a normal village, no, now she's an inventor whose radical ideas are just too much for the rest of this provincial town.
That's literally the girl boss thing that people like Drinker criticize all the time!
Yes.
That's literally what it said!
Yeah. Jay Longbone made a video, like, criticizing this movie for exactly what Ant is calling out 6 years ago, and he's simultaneously saying that she never made these criticisms because she's anti-woke. Like,
yes.
What are you talking about, Ant?
Exactly. It's like, that's literally, again, what he just did was, like, again, when Critical Drinker criticizes girl bosses, he's criticizing exactly what Ant just said. He criticizes how female characters have went from, like, characters that are simply competent characters to, oh, they need to be the best at everything. She needs to be this amazing inventor and this and that and this and that and this and that. And it's like, no, we just need actual characters. That's what Critical Drinker means when he calls characters a girl boss. He's not just like, we want women to be like 50s housewives. No, we want them to be he wants them to be actual characters, and so do other anti-woke people. Like, it's so weird because you could tell, you could tell that they agree, that deep down, they agree with people like Drinker, but they don't want to because they see them as the enemy. So they do all these mental gymnastics to somehow justify why they're right about the exact same criticisms. Like, a perfect example. There's a perfect example of this. There's a Family Guy cutaway gag where Thomas Edison basically goes, "Hey, what's that? What's that you're making?" And then another dude says, "I'm making the light bulb." And then Thomas Edison goes, "Oh, a light bulb! A light bulb! I would know that because I invented it." What Ant is doing is basically stealing credit. What Ant and people like him are doing are basically stealing criticism from people like Drinker and are pretending that they're the ones that are saying
it's only a valid criticism if my side makes it.
Yes, exactly.
Yep, okay.
And her mother died of the plague, and that's why she's not in the movie at all. And actually, Belle's totally an assertive character who paradoxically is less assertive of her wants than in the original film, despite being seemingly more aggressive in this film, even though she's really not. Every character needs a backstory to the point where it distracts from the core emotional drive of Beauty and the Beast. The romance between Beauty and the Beast. We just need more layers of conflict, more tension, more drama. But more material does not necessarily add anything to the story. In stories that are already expertly told and balanced, with scenes coming at the right pace, with the right flow, these changes detract rather than add to the narrative. It takes your attention off of the core things that matter.
Yeah, again, he's absolutely correct here. If this were a standalone video where he was criticizing the live-action Beauty and the Beast remake, I'd probably give it a thumbs up. I'd probably recommend it. But his premise of this video is that people he dislikes are not making these criticisms when they absolutely are. And I bet if Snow White, the live-action Snow White remake, has these same problems, they'll point it out. But I don't think he's going to acknowledge that.
No,
because that's basically what it is. Because it's like these people, because again, they want to pretend that the whole anti-woke is about bigotry, when really and it's like, yeah, like there are some people that do use it to like bad ends, but what anti-wokeness is supposed to be about is about calling out bad storytelling. It's about calling out bad, awful representation in like certain forms of media media, how companies like Disney cater, like pretend like are incredibly half baked in terms of their representation. That's what it is. But people like Ant will never understand that because they only understand it from their perspective. If Ant actually watched a Critical Drinker video in good faith, he'd probably find that he actually would agree. He and Drinker would probably agree on more things than they would disagree with. I've disagreed with, like, I've watched videos from people that I disagree with on like several things, but at the same time, I do agree with like certain things that they've said. But people like Ant are only capable of watching videos from people they agree with 100%.
In essence, anti-woke is basically reject modernity, embrace tradition.
I mean, yeah,
pretty much, exactly. Yeah.
Anthony thinks anti-woke is just no minorities in film ever unless they're incredibly minor and half-baked, which, like, no, we don't want that. We don't want films like that. We want them to be well-written, but because we won't worship characters like Captain Marvel or whatever, like, or Reva or whatever other random character, because we're just, like, bigots, and when we like characters like all the time, like this all the time, but no, though they always say, oh, those are just examples you pick to pretend that you're not bigoted, which is something I will never understand. And if I address that, we'd go on a longer rant, so I'll just end it here. But it's just so frustrating dealing with this type of nonsense.
Yes.
Yeah.
And onto things that don't really matter. This is why remakes of the Renaissance films often fall short. They feel clumsy, awkwardly paced, weird to watch, because the original films were masterfully paced to be 90 minutes or 100 minutes in some cases in length. They communicated their ideas with an economy of storytelling. Concise plot points, concise details. Well, most of them anyway. To revise them without fundamentally changing the story you're telling feels like the same thing you saw but longer. They're massively long adaptations of films that were essentially very tightly written, and so a lot of the points feel like filler, waiting for you to get to the plot points the original film balanced so effectively. You know what? People get hung up on diverse casting or new characters added when the issues, it's far simpler. You know, it's just one core issue. Disney, the company, wants to tell the exact same story that you're familiar with so they can maximize brand familiarity, but they want to upgrade it to make it valuable for you to come back and watch it.
Okay,
you know,
well,
again,
hang on. Pause.
Okay, yeah, hold on.
As you can see, though, in at the bottom of the screen, it says upgrade with quotation marks. So he's obviously using that term.
Yeah.
And,
it's like, okay,
he doesn't actually mean upgrade.
Ant, my fucking guy, my fucking guy. The fucking problems that we complain about are the kinds that you seem to get in a fucking bit. You get your fucking panties in a twist over when we complain about the shit we complain about. Those are symptoms of the shit you yourself are complaining about. You yourself are complaining about how these are like bad quote-unquote upgrades to the original film. Well, the shit we're complaining about are come about because of the bad upgrades you hate so much. You fucking dumbass.
Like I said before,
keep it constructive.
The entire justification that these reboots have is that they are more diverse. Like, he can say that he doesn't care if they're race bent or not, if the princesses are race bent or not. Neither do we. We are pointing out that it doesn't matter if they're race bent. It still doesn't justify their creation. They're just the same story, but their races are bent. Like, it's just a stupid, like, they shouldn't exist.
Yes.
That's not enough justification.
Yes.
Moving on.
They're repackaging the same thing you already bought, but with a fresh new coat of paint to make it look different. They add these bells and whistles that either don't change the fundamentals of the story or add very little. And in this case, it leaves you feeling like, what's the point?
Oh, and wait, there's a third one. There's a third one he forgot. Actively make the story worse.
Yes.
Or they actively damage.
Well, he's talked about that.
By changing the pacing,
I thought
by
he was
changing
getting
the
to
flow
that.
of the narrative, making it so to get to the points you're familiar with, it takes longer. And because of that, you're left sitting there waiting and waiting and waiting for the next plot point to come.
Okay,
You
now
know it's
hold on,
coming,
Jeremy,
and
pause.
all of this stuff.
He's putting way too much emphasis on how it ruins the pacing of the films. It doesn't ruin the fucking pacing, it ruins the whole damn plot altogether. You fucking moron. Oh my god.
As a symptom, yeah.
Because again,
ruining the pacing of a story can ruin the story completely. I mean, there's other factors too, like adding stuff in can detract from other things, and but it's not like what he's saying is inaccurate. It's just not the whole truth.
Yes, yeah.
Exactly. The stuff that he's saying is technically right, but the problem is he's pussyfooting around.
Yes.
More issues in order to not, because again, like that's the thing, because it's like. One thing, because a common myth about shills is that shills are only people who will only be mindlessly positive all the time. And while that is true that there are definitely a lot of shills like that, some shills, like Anthony, will basically make a bunch of incredibly tame criticisms in order to divert the fact. Like people like Ant and Star Wars Explained will make a couple light criticisms. It's like, see, this is how you criticize the right way. In order, being a shill isn't just about being mindlessly positive. It's about being afraid. Like, people like Drinker and Neurotic and Mahler will point out, if they see a problem with a movie, they will point out the exact problem with the movie in every single area, and they will not hold back. They will say their exact feelings, and they're not afraid to. Even if I disagree with them sometimes, they will say exactly what they think. People like Anthony, on the other hand, will scurry around, if they do make criticisms, they'll scurry around them like mice, only taking light, tiny jabs. So that way their audience gets the allure of watching actual criticism. So they can go, see, this is how you criticize the right way, not like those mean old chuds, without going too far with it, because I don't want to be negative on my channel. Ooh.
Mm-hmm.
Which, from what I hear, it's not that they're not negative; it's just they're only negative towards certain people. But whatever,
The ad doesn't really contribute to how the plot resolves itself, how the characters reach their final conclusions. You've seen this 100 times, but now they have auto-tuned singing, and it takes longer to get to the point. It's like when someone tells you a story and they ramble on about unimportant details, and the whole time you're thinking, just get to the point. I'm sure some of you are saying that with this video right now.
Oh, so he knows we make these criticisms of his videos, yet he keeps doing them anyway! What the fuck, Ant? Why do you keep making the same fucking mistakes if you know you get shit over it? Why?
Yo.
Hey.
Why?
I think this image right here, when you make the thumbnail
That is the fucking thumbnail. That is the fucking thumbnail. That is the biggest shit-eating grin I've ever fucking seen of this man. Oh my god.
It is a shit-eating grin, and the shit is laced.
Yes.
The face of somebody who is so clever.
Oh my fucking god.
Observation.
Anyway, I don't want us to get. I don't want to get doing the exact same thing.
Let's move on.
35 minutes. God.
Wait, we'll get there. Don't worry. Other times with things like, say, The Lion King, they take what was already there and make it less interesting. Let's take the lions that were these expressive animated creatures and make them look more realistic. And in doing so, remove all chance of the characters emoting to the camera. The choice to make the lions in The Lion King look that realistic and that unexpressive was something that we knew back in the 90s and 80s was a bad idea. Case in point, watch Babe. They had real animals that are more expressive in that movie, with puppetry and all that, of course, and some digital effects. The animals there are more expressive than the animals in the massively high-budget Lion King film. Just because you could make something more expensive and more realistic doesn't mean you should. The best live-action adaptations appear to be the ones that go off in their own directions, but only if they tell a good story. I know, shocking. Aladdin works for the most part, and part of the reason it works is because it is so different from the original film. And it's so different because they could not copy one of the key elements of...
Are you fucking serious here, my guy?
Okay, hold on. Okay, I actually do kind of agree with Anne. I will say, I'm not saying it's good, but I will say that Aladdin is one of the less bad remakes because of exactly what Anne said. It is definitely a movie, because it does actually, like, it isn't a good movie, it does at the very least, like, make the film. It does things that are significantly different as opposed to something like, say, Beauty and the Beast, which does like the same thing. Aladdin, at the very least, adds some elements to it, which, despite not making it good, at the very least makes me respect it more than garbage like Mulan or The Lion King. If you're going to remake a movie, give it its own spin. That's why I respect this Aladdin and Alice in Wonderland more than the others, because they actually. So I kind of agree with Ant on this one.
Anyway.
Of the original film. Will Smith could never copy what Robin Williams did with the genie, so he had to make it his own. And in doing so, he helped improve the film. Granted, they are still the upgrading sections of the film, where they try to upgrade the original movie for the new audiences of the 2010s, and these are the weakest links, such as the performative statements about Jasmine breaking free of tradition, because the original film already had Jasmine actively breaking free of tradition.
Again, another criticism people like Drinker make all the time!
Yes.
That's literally what people like Drinker... I'm sorry. That's literally what people like Drinker say. The feminism aspects are performative. But when people like Drinker say that, oh, you're bigoted, it's mind-boggling. The cognitive dissonance these people have.
It's only a valid criticism when my side makes it.
And bad.
It was kind of one of the key plot points of that film, because that film itself was trying to upgrade the Disney Princess line for the 90s, where these initial criticisms were first being levied in general. But I digress. The parts that they changed and have a creative message behind it, that works. The stuff that's just corporate upgrading doesn't really work as well, because it kind of conflicts with the flow of the narrative they're trying to build. It's as if the...
Also, side note, because Ant's probably not going to mention it because it's not relevant, the Jafar in this movie was so bad. The guy who played Jafar was like, they picked literally the least menacing person they could have to play Jafar.
Yeah.
And Menace is like a big part of his character.
They should have gotten the great Khali to do it. Like, imagine if Jafar comes out, it's like, hold it out, would be great.
They're taking an actor with actual menace. Anyway, I just wanted to bring that up because Ant probably wasn't.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, and the film was too subtle for audiences to get the first time, and so in the less media literate landscape of the modern era, they have to upgrade it some more so that it's like bashing you over the head with a frying pan. On the other hand, a film like Mulan completely supplants the original plot, and in doing so, creates a story that fundamentally mishandles the appeal Mulan's character had in the first place. Mulan becomes an incredibly passive character, gifted with incredible chi, basically superpowers.
So you mean like an overpowered Mary Sue?
Mary Sue?
Just say it. Come on. You brought up bad writing tropes before, Ant. Just say it.
Come on, Ant. You can say it. We know you want to.
Drink whenever Ant says a criticism that someone like Drinker or Mahler.
I wasted all my nectar of the gods on that shit.
Just a quick side note. Does anyone else remember when Disney for the live action Mulan filmed by
You're a
concentration
fucking
camps?
Uyghur camp, yeah.
Again, yeah. And
What?
Monsters? What monsters?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, Disney's totally a perfectly good company, guys. We
Yeah.
shouldn't go after them. Blah blah.
It would be amazing
Someone
if you
who
mentioned
doesn't
this.
fit the mold is physically weaker than her fellow soldiers, but through ingenuity and
She's
cleverness,
smarter, yeah.
manages to succeed and break through limitations. The original story featured rising action, overcoming adversity, and becoming a stronger person as a result. But this Mulan doesn't really need to change. She's very static. She just has to be powerful.
Yeah.
That's criticism we've made, my guy.
Yep.
And that's less interesting
It's
from a
invalid 'cause you
conflict
called her Mary
standpoint
Sue
than
back
someone
to
trying to
her.
figure
You're
out
sexist.
how to
You're
function in
terrible.
society and then realize they can't function in the society, so they have to just be their own person anyway. This film is very conformist. The original was the opposite of that. Being true to yourself was way more important than serving family and honor and all that. These changes made fundamentally fail to get what audiences loved about the original Mulan. Also, Shang is totally absent. Probably because Disney were too afraid to show a character questioning his burgeoning attraction to someone he thinks is another man, especially if they were trying to market themselves to China, which...
No, he never felt attraction to Mulan when she pretended to be a guy. That never happened.
He didn't even figure out she was a woman until like after like the second act. Avalanche, yeah.
The Avalanche, yeah.
So like,
yeah.
By the
did
way,
you watch the
is
original
entire
film,
reason-
Ant?
No.
Bro, it was just brosome.
Yeah.
Again, it's just it goes back to if you're platonic, you must be gay. That dumb take.
Yeah.
Annoying.
To appeal to China. That didn't go so well.
China.
So all this is well and good. These are all
China.
criticisms that have been levied at the Disney remake for years. But
China.
what does this have to do with Snow White in particular? Well, let's look at what I avoided talking about. I know, more rambling. Don't worry, it'll make sense. They are three Disney princess films that Walt Disney personally animated and produced and directed. Sleeping Beauty, Cinderella, and his first full-length animated film, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. This forms kind of a trinity, a holy trinity, really, of Disney films that fans have loved for years, families have grown up with. The Disney parks put the Cinderella castle and the Sleeping Beauty castle at the center point of their parks. Don't really see the Snow White castle anywhere, but I digress. All three have now been adapted to live action, and two of them took significant liberties with the original text. Maleficent is basically Sleeping Beauty's answer to Wicked. I would say a little weaker than Wicked, but I digress. Cinderella, however, is given the flair of Kenneth Branagh's usual Shakespeare works. And Snow White, well, it's being pulled in two different directions, right? To be upgraded and to not step on too many toes. Too many changes in one direction, it might lose its core audience. It's careful business marketing. Unfortunately, it doesn't take the extreme risks that Maleficent takes, nor does it take the elevation of the source material that Kenneth Branagh took.
Okay, hang on. Let's pause right here. Let's pause right here. How much do we want to agree with that? Because
honestly, again, his takes in this video have been cold, but yeah, it does honestly seem like the movie is trying to be like both because it is clearly trying to like ape off the nostalgia and be faithful to the original, while at the same time being different, which like is understandable. The original remake was a very simplistic story, so it is understandable that they try to update things. But yeah, it is definitely trying to both add some changes but not make too many changes. Again, Ant's takes in this video aren't wrong, but at the same time they're
disingenuous. That's a problem. They're just disingenuous. Because he's simultaneously criticizing someone else, like other people in this video, as if they're not making the same takes that he's making. But yeah, in regards to his point, like one of my favorite directors right now is Robert Eggers, and with some of his films, he retells stories but he adds layers of depth to them so that they feel fresh, right? But the thing that makes those changes work is that they don't contradict the story being told. It just amplifies them. It's more complementary than they are like it detracts from the story, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And yeah, when we eventually get to Rachel Zegler, she's going to be suggesting changes that detract from the story rather than amplify the original story.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll get to that.
Forth based on market testing. Oh, and the decentralization of one key element in Snow White, the dwarves. See, in Sleeping Beauty and Snow White, the princess is not the main character. Aurora is not the character that undergoes change and growth in Sleeping Beauty, nor really does Snow White. They start the story as one character, and they end the story as that same character, but now they have a boyfriend. No, rather, it's the weird little guys who are the main characters. The 3 fairies in Sleeping Beauty, the 7 dwarves in Snow White. They develop and change the most. They drive most of the action in the narrative. And unlike the princesses, who are supposed to be the main characters but are actually asleep for a good chunk of the narrative, especially the key plot points like the 3rd act, these characters can be imperfect. They are not idealized like the princesses are. The princesses are just beautiful and they're the peak. But the little guys can be weird, they can argue, they can fight, they can bicker, and that makes them interesting, that makes them fun, that makes them dynamic. There's more Sleepy merch out there than there is Snow White merch, guaranteed.
I am going to doubt that.
Works to.
I am going to press X to doubt on that big time. Like, no fucking way, bro. No way. I don't buy that. And if you want me to believe that, show some fucking numbers. Show some numbers. Like you're telling me that Disney, a company that primarily appeals to girls, is making more merch based off of one of the dwarves, let alone all of them, more than the fucking title character? Get the fuck out of here with that bullshit. That's cap, my guy.
I mean, Maleficent is. I would buy. I believe that Maleficent is far more popular than more of the Sleeping Beauty because she's been like a prominent character in like other media, like Kingdom Hearts, for instance.
Yeah, but Maleficent pretty much runs on the freaking rule on like the evil is cool shit. But like you're telling, but like, are you seriously trying to tell me that one of the dwarves, fucking one, has more fucking merch than Snow White? No way, bro. I do not buy that at all. I can maybe buy Maleficent more than Aurora because I always thought Aurora was the least interesting of the fucking princesses, but Sleepy over Snow? No, get out of here. Get out of here. That's ridiculous.
To a degree, because it focuses on Maleficent, this big fan favorite character who there's not a whole lot known about. A lot is implied about Maleficent and Sleeping Beauty, but you never get the answers to your questions, and as such,
that reminds me, Jeremy Pause. He's so I really do disagree with Ant's point that like, oh, the princesses are really boring, they're so flat, they're so dynamic. It's like there's nothing wrong with being a flat character, Ant. It's like not every character, and I say this as a writer, not every character needs to be round or dynamic. Sometimes it's fine to just have a flat character or a static character. And in fact, some characters work better as flat or static. You know what I'm saying? And
yeah,
like Master Chief isn't a particularly dynamic character, well, at least until Halo 4, but then they degraded him back to static in Halo 5, but I digress. It's like, so it's like, I just disagree with this notion like, oh, they suck because they're flat. It's like, no, they could be as flat as they want and still be good. So,
yeah, another example, Marty McFly in Back. No, I mean, like strictly talking about the first Back to the Future, because he does develop in the later films, but in terms of the first Back to the Future, Marty doesn't develop at all.
No.
Like, he starts the film as a typical 80s teen. He doesn't really change or develop in any way.
Sorry, I don't want to interrupt, but I have to step away for like 10 to 15 minutes.
All right, Flash.
All right, later.
In the original Back to the Future.
I'll stay in the call, but I'm like,
all right,
develop at all. At all. At all. He basically stays the same throughout the entire film. His dad, at least the one version in the past, is the one that gains an arc as he goes from a wimpy nerd to beating up to punching out his bully and getting a better life. But Mark basically is the exact same. But the reason he works as a character is the most three-dimensional character. He's still, interesting and likable. He has a fun personality. He has good interactions with his friend, with like the other characters. What he lacks in a huge arc, he makes up for in likability, and he makes up for in likability.
Yeah.
Well, he does develop as a character later on in the film, with him in the third film, basically shaking off the fact that he's like the whole "what's the matter, McFly" chicken thing.
Yeah.
Basically, they didn't know that would happen. If those films never happened and it was just that one movie, Marty would still be a good character because even though he's not incredibly complex and big, he's still a likable character.
Yes.
Character arcs definitely, but the key to making a good character is one that the audience can connect with and enjoy due to their attributes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Anyway.
Explore that character. Why is she the way she is? That's one of the key successes of Wicked as well, because Wicked was able to take a character who was not as overtly developed in the original book or the original film and explore the unexplored components of the character.
Question: did you guys hate Wicked?
I don't give a fuck about it.
I never thought it was pretty good. Which version, the play or the movie? Because I haven't seen either.
Both, I guess. Because I actually thought the film was pretty faithful to the.
I was going to see the play because I had a date set to see the play at my college's theater, but I had another event that was going on at the same time, so I had to skip it.
As a story, it was. I didn't have any issues with it, but the problem is that I think a lot of people were really biased against it because they're so used to all of the typical. Oh, this villain, this established villain was actually incredibly misunderstood.
Yeah,
they're so used to those poorly done stories. By now,
Wicked.
like Cruella.
Wicked is basically patient zero for that bullshit. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a shame because it's not bad.
If you guys haven't seen it, there's a StarKid Productions did a sort of version of Wicked called Twisted, where basically Jafar is the hero. Mm-hmm. It's actually really. You can find the whole thing on YouTube. It's a pretty clever musical that actually is that actually kind of recontextualizes the story of Aladdin in an interesting way. Has interesting characters. The acting is great, and it's I definitely recommend the whole thing's available on YouTube. And Shaft Frillis Productions, who I actually found out about it from, did a really cool YouTube collab for the musical, which is just as good. So definitely recommend checking.
Okay. All right then.
But Snow White and Aurora are both fairly basic characters. You know everything you need to know in the films themselves. In fact, with Aurora, you see her from the time she's a baby to the time she's grown up, and you get a full sense of where she's grown over that period of time. Maleficent, of course, changes the plot a lot to add Maleficent as a key component to that story. It takes liberties without changing the fundamentals of what happened in that original film. Snow White works because Snow White is seen as an identifiable symbol of purity and kindness. Even Aurora isn't seen as a pure figure. She's just seen as a role model, as a good princess, as a good person, as an innocent. But Snow White is the fairest of them all. From the very beginning, she's elevated to the perfective status of the pinnacle of human experience. She is the best. She is the greatest of all. And that's kind of hard to tell a story about when someone is just so good that they're beyond everything else. It makes the story kind of boring, doesn't it? We need flaws in the narrative. We need complexities. And Snow White works as a very simple fairy tale because, hey, in small doses, the fairest of them all, that makes sense. That's good. That's basic. But a full 2-hour movie about that? About focus on a character who is so pure and so flawless? It's like, that's the definition of a Mary Sue, isn't it? So how do we tell a story about a Mary Sue? You got to change some things. But if you can't change anything because you're so...
I really disagree with Ant's fucking summary right there, because this is just due down to fucking different fucking definitions and shit. But what Ant described there, I wouldn't even call that a Mary Sue. Like, just a character whose like soul defining trait is like their pure-hearted kindness. I would say that's just like the wide-eyed idealist, or the cutie. I wouldn't say that's the fucking Mary Sue, because lest we forget, Snow White, she has one major fuck up in the film, and it damn near costed her life, and I'm sure we all remember that. So yeah.
The thing is, like, what a Mary Sue is a character that is presented as always perfect, always in the right.
Yeah, flawless.
Always basically the self-insert. The character who is never questioned, who the narrative bends over backwards to protect, never does a problem, never does anything. And basically that's because it's like, that's really what it is. And the reason Anthony defines it like that was because he can't fathom the idea of an actual Mary Sue, because he can't imagine it being a good thing for a character like this to have flaws. Like, characters, like, the fundamental problem with Mary Sue's is that characters need flaws. Like, people, like, they always go and are like, oh, you only like these because they're modern. You would hate the old. You would, if like, one of the most annoying arguments from these types of people is, you would call Ripley and Sarah Connor woke if they came out today. I'm not going to go through all of it, because if I did, we'd go on a tangent. So I'll just go over the basic points. Because those characters actually had depth. They actually had character flaws. They went through arcs. Meanwhile, characters like Captain Marvel, characters like She-Hulk, don't. Alistair Haycon, the dude who made that Organized Chaos.
Oh yeah. Expose. Yeah.
He had a really good video comparing Carol Danvers and Steve Rogers, and how Steve Rogers really has like a good like moral code, and Captain Marvel really doesn't. Because the thing about characters like Captain Marvel and Rey and all these other characters, people like Ant only defend them because they're women.
Yes.
If Carol Danvers was a guy, these people wouldn't care.
No.
It's all about identity. Like, the irony is, they're the ones who see identity. People like Critical Drinker will criticize the character regardless of their identity, whereas people like Ant would hold their punches on characters like Captain Marvel.
Oh yeah, they would.
I'll try to keep the tangents to a minimum. I'm still kind of new at this, and I get on like big tangents. I'm sorry, but yeah.
Ironed and anchored to a specific corporate image, you can't do that. So you gotta fix. You gotta upgrade the narrative, and that's where problems come in.
This Snow White is going to have a modern edge to her, a modern edge to her, a modern edge to her.
Cartoon was so focused on her finding true love, and it's really not even in her mind at all in this film. So focused on becoming the leader and how to find her own agency.
Okay, that's literally what Drinker's criticizing here.
Yes.
Of course she does.
So the mentality that Disney employs, fixing these characters, making them more modern, it doesn't really work with Snow White. It just decreases the specific appeal of this specific character.
And that's what people like Critical Drinker have been criticizing the entire time. That's what they're saying. It's so frustrating. Let's keep going.
It's one of the reasons why Rachel Zegler, who, like Brie Larson, has become an inexplicable target of harassment mobs all over the internet.
No, it's not inexplicable, dude. Like she along with Brie Larson are terrible with publicity. With
Rachel Zegler is an arrogant, cocky bitch. That's basically why people hate her.
Yeah. I will say so though. I saw her in Y2K in that A24 movie Y2K, and honestly, she was fine. Like she
was fine performance-wise, but the movie itself was shit.
Yeah.
Y2K was overall a pretty good movie. It really does suck that it was actually a pretty good movie.
No, I
know people were crazy because
that was awful. Like they killed off the funny comedic relief characters like immediately, and we were left with all these like bland, like unlikable characters for the rest of the movie. It was just like, god damn.
Yeah, I actually was shocked that the best friend character died. I totally thought he would live through the whole movie, and they just were like randomly killed him off.
Yeah.
Has drawn controversy unlike any.
Wait, hold on. Wait, I'm sorry. I want to see who
target of harassment mobs all over the internet. Has drawn.
Okay, let's see. WDW Pro, Brian Cannell.
No.
Ooh, hey, look, it's Disparu.
Hi, Disparu. Yay, Disparu, you finally made one of these. Yay.
Disparu's hilarious.
Yes.
I love it.
Yes.
Controversy unlike any other.
Okay, another WD Pro, and I have never heard of Think About This.
Nah.
Disney princess with the close.
Mike Zero's just clickbait. He does this shit all the time.
Oh yeah, Mike Zero is a nothing channel.
Yes.
He's one of those channels that like what people who think but he's one of those there are certain channels like Mike Zero, Andy Pants Gaming, Synthetic Man, and of course Ranting for Vengeance.
Yeah.
That insane.
Yeah, and of course he got Megyn Kelly here because of course he got Megyn Kelly here because of course Anthony hates Fox News.
Yeah, I mean honestly I don't really to be fair with Fox News, I don't know about all of them. Jesse Waters is an idiot. Like this dude literally thinks that drinking out of a straw is unmanly. That dude's a moron. That dude's basically Tucker Carlson with even less person. Like that dude is basically all the craziness of Tucker Carlson without any personality. Like they genuinely would be Tucker Carlson than Jesse Waters. That dude is a moron.
Yeah. Anyway.
Closest being Ariel from the Little Mermaid.
I've
don't know who that is.
No.
Mermaid, which is a whole discussion there. Because Rachel Zegler's Snow White represents the changes Disney is making to their own IP, while simultaneously refusing to completely divorce the IP from its original adaptation.
Okay,
Zegler is not a writer.
Again, like Ant, how does that go? Like, how is that? Your beginning message at the start of your video was that it's the reason these movies are failing isn't because of any inherent decision from the filmmakers. That sounds like what you're describing sounds like an inherent decision to me.
The irony is, the great irony of this video is that what Anthony's doing, describing Disney is doing, he's doing himself. Like similar to how Disney is trying to balance the line between staying true to the original and doing something new. Anthony is trying to toe the line between actually criticizing the movie and not alienating his audience who don't want any criticisms of movies like those mean old chuds, robble.
Yes.
Isn't it ironic, don't you think?
How ironic, yes.
Divorce the IP from its original adaptation. Zegler is not a writer. She has no influence on this decision.
So what? So what? She's still the public face of the marketing campaign, bro. She's the fucking lead actress.
These people pretend that marketing isn't a thing. Like they think
yes.
Like they look at people like Drinker and Hypnotic and all these other people focusing on the marketing, and it's like, why are you doing that? That's dumb. It's marketing. It's not the actual movie. And meanwhile, ignoring how big a role marketing a movie plays into this. I'm actually taking a class in like media marketing, and yeah, advertising has a really big like impact on a product. So
actors are paid to be likable. Like that's another aspect to
Yeah.
this. If
Contractual
you're not
purity,
likable,
yeah.
if
Again,
you're not
people like
likable,
me
then that really impacts your film.
Again, people like Ant aren't interested in delving into the marketing because they don't care. They just see, ooh, pretty movie. I watch movie, blah, blah. And they think like the only reason people like Drinker and Hypnotic are looking at the marketing is, oh, they're just grifting off of the marketing and creating fake outrage, even though 9 times out, and even though like sometimes the outrage is fake, like with York's Torch Gaming trying to claim that split fiction is woke, but most of the time it isn't, and there is genuine outrage, and they're just reporting on it. Similar to how like a news station, like again, channels like Hypnotic and others are basically just the equivalent of news media for pop culture, giving them the scoops and the issues on that stuff. But again, these people don't care about that. They just want to see the.
Well, they do. They will care as long as it's not someone on their quote unquote side. Like if it was Mel Gibson in a movie and he was doing like saying some controversial stuff, they'd be like, "We need to boycott this movie." Or if there's a J.K. Rowling project,
they're already doing that with Gal Gadot. Like, and they're already doing that with Gal Gadot in this movie.
Yeah, because she served on the IDF like she's a Zionist.
I mean,
anyway, I went and got some food and came back, and we barely made progress. What's up?
No, we made some progress, my guy. Come on.
A video. Of course, we barely made progress.
Yes, yes.
Progress on anything.
She's not a business person. She's just an actor hired to play out an iconic role.
So what?
And
so
okay,
what?
I didn't hear anything because my headset just broke, so I had to fix it.
Oh no.
Also, actors do have a say in a production. I don't know where this meme they're just
Anthony,
they don't have any say comes from.
The studios are these big, mean, evil companies when the actors and the writers and directors are just tiny little babies and they don't have any control. And not to diss all of them, because obviously there are actors and directors that are genuinely good people that are trying to do good. But actors and directors and writers can be just as succinct to failure as other people. Like, there are so many cogs in the wheels when it comes to making a movie. And at any moment, one of those cogs could come apart.
Yeah.
But what Anthony is saying, hey, don't focus on these cogs because criticizing these cogs hurts my feeties. Instead, only focus on these cogs and don't pay attention if one of those other cogs.
Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. Yes, yes.
Wrong movie.
Still.
It's like, yeah, that's why these people essentially. That's why people like Ant are useful idiots that use their cowardice to criticize that companies use the cowardice. Like they basically by refusing to meaningfully criticize the industry, they end up essentially serving as their marketing team, making excuses for unethical companies to allow them to do what they do, and blaming any actual substantial criticism as chuds being chuds or harassment. And that in turn fuels anti-chud slot videos. It's like a symbiotic riff, essentially. That
Ant bad, I agree.
Yes, Ant bad.
And she's probably going to do the best she can with the material, and she might even elevate it.
Yeah,
I'm gonna press a big ol' X to doubt all that.
Oh.
She literally came out and apologized. Oh, no, well, she didn't apologize. Like she was told to shut up because her handlers realized
Shut the fuck up, bitch! Basically.
Like she can negatively influence the film.
Yes, she is literally tanking public perception of the film. You fucking moron! How do you not realize that? Are you that fucking out of the loop? Ugh.
Because Ant overdoses, because Ant and people like him overdose on copium, because the thing is, they criticize the because the thing is, they criticize the outward problems, but won't criticize the things that lead to those problems because those things are in their own best interest.
Mhm.
They'll criticize capitalism from a surface level perspective, but they won't criticize things like forced diversity and race baiting that are the specific methods that rainbow capitalism operates. It is
Yeah.
all just massive, massive, massive cognitive dissonance.
Yes.
Also low taper name. I said massive. Well,
But there's only so much you can elevate material made from cynical corporate marketing. Or at least that's what I assume. I haven't actually watched any clips of them getting angry yet, so let's watch one, shall we?
But of course, this is the Rachel Zegler that
Hi,
we all
Jeremy.
know right here. Let me back this up.
There's a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her. Weird.
Super weird.
So we didn't do that this time.
So no Prince or a different kind of Prince?
We have a different approach to what I'm sure a lot of people will assume is a love story just because like we cast a guy in the movie.
Right.
Andrew Burnap, great dude.
Yeah.
It's one of those things that I think everyone's going to have their assumptions about what it's actually going to be, but it's really not about the love story at all, which is really, really wonderful. And whether or not she finds love along the way is anybody's guess until 2024. All of Andrew's scenes
off 2025 cough.
could get cut. Who knows? It's Hollywood, baby. But it's...
God, she's so incredibly unlikable, and she makes it worse and worse.
What was his point?
He just said she was unlikable, you dumbass. How did you not get that?
Again, you only played a small hand, and again, you didn't allow him to fully elaborate his point. Because again, that's what they do. They take in.
Yeah, it sounded like he was going to say more.
Because I don't really watch like geeks and gamers.
Mhm.
But again, I'm sure if I actually watched the video, there's probably some context. He'd probably criticize the unnecessary change he's talking about.
He probably says
Again,
a lot more too. It seemed like Ant just paused him. Fucking. It seems like he just cut him off.
Because again, that's what they want to do. They basically just steal these criticisms and pause. And again, and another thing unrelated to this video, these people will take, because again, oftentimes people like Nerdrotic and Drinker and EFAP and Hypnotic will make edgy jokes that these people will take so seriously.
Yes.
Like, you know, how Hypnotic calls his fans the bigot army, you know, because like perceived it, and these people and people like Gaming Circle Jerk will take it so seriously. Like another one, speaking of another massive one. So back a while back ago, one of the men, like I watched Hypnotic's podcast, Saturday Night Hypnosis.
Mhm.
One of the dudes from the podcast, Ryan Roger Athe, they were watching the dude who played they were watching the dude a Game Awards live show, and one of the dudes who made a game called Zao. Basically, Ryan Roger Athe made a joke saying, "Oh, they should have called the studio Spear Chucker Studios," and like Twitter. I mean, Twitter often gets mad at Hypnotic and the SNH crew, so I just assumed it would be like normal drama. But like, it got insanely massive. So many people like attacked the guys. I mean, they got mad at all of them, but they mostly got mad at Ryan for his comments, and also a little bit at one of the guests, Sammy 3P, because he made a little jokes where he said, "Sing us a song, you're the colored man," harmonica noise, like. But yeah, it's like, so, yeah, like, he got a little bit of backlash, but Ryan got the bulk of it, and it kind of led to this whole thing. Another anti-woke YouTuber named Mike Hollow called them out, and then him and Ryan got in a massive debate about it. Him, Ryan, and Smash GT got into a whole live stream. Another awful YouTuber named TBBN Gaming, who is another one of these, like, woke idiots, made a video about that as well. It was like this. What actually ended up happening basically what ended up happening was they ended up patching things with both Mike Hollow as well as the original Zhao guy. But it's like that entire thing just goes to show how these people will take like things, because it's like Ryan's spear tripper joke wasn't really funny, but at the end of the day, it is clear that it was a joke. Because Ryan is like so much of a troll that in the opening he has like each Saturday Night Hypnosis member in the opening has their own little like slideshow thing. Like they give themselves their own little title, like Will the Fans is named the British Spy because he's British and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Ryan's is a Klansman because he makes all these edgy jokes. It's like they poke fun at themselves with the accusations of being bigoted by calling themselves bigoted and making these incredibly silly, edgy jokes. And these people will take them so seriously because to them it's reinforcing their beliefs as to who they are, when really they're making fun of that perception.
Yeah.
I have no idea. Dude, I don't get it.
You know what? That was probably a bad clip. Let's watch another one.
The original cartoon came out in 1937, and very evidently so.
Okay.
There's a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her. Weird.
See, that's kind of strange considering...
No one said anything! You just included a clip of a meme reaction!
Yes!
No, show someone actually criticizing what Rachel Zegler says. Don't just... No. Show an actual clip. I swear to God if you don't show an actual clip.
You know, this is the exact same thing Crack was saying
he's not
12 years
gonna
ago.
say it. Oh, he's not gonna show any other real clips. For fuck's sake.
Oh, boy.
And everyone loved it then.
No, Ant. No, it isn't. It is very different. Criticizing a character and their story is different than criticizing an actress. You can't possibly be this stupid. You can't possibly be this stupid.
He is. He is.
He's just being purposely obtuse and
frustrating
because she's clearly
it's all on
misunderstanding the
purpose.
story. She's clearly misunderstanding the story, which is what he was calling out at the start of the video, which he suddenly has no problem with. Like people misunderstanding the original movies, and that's exactly what she's doing now. But of course, he doesn't care.
Yeah.
Again, I will give credit to this video. Unlike the bad gay representation, at least this one is somewhat focused. Like, the only off-topic things he talks about are other Disney remakes. At the very least, he somewhat stays on topic in this one, so it's at least slightly more bearable.
Yay. You got one fucking point up than usual, Ant.
Oh, wait, I'm sorry. No, Cracked was saying 12 years ago, and everyone loved it then. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. No, Cracked went way further.
Snow White eats the apple because she's the ideal Disney princess, a dummy who relies on her looks and her looks alone.
So being good looking is a superpower.
No, she didn't. No, it wasn't because of her looks. It was because she was a 14-year-old naive child. It didn't have anything to do with her being dumb or having her looks. She was 14 and a child. Incredibly naive.
This obviously evil lady, this obviously evil crone looks totally trustworthy, you guys. I should probably take a bite of her apple, yeah.
Okay, yes, but at the same time, her falling for it wasn't because, she's just a dumb princess. Like, that objectively isn't true at all. She wasn't just, it's like, characters, that's the thing. It's like, characters can have flaws. They can do... The funny thing is these people, one of the common criticisms, going back to EFAP briefly, a common criticism people have at EFAP is that, EFAP are robots. They want every character to make the perfect logical choices all the time, when no, they don't. They just want consistency. But people like this do. The moment a female character exhibits some kind of flaw in any way, it's automatically because of sexism or this or that, and it's like, it's so frustrating. They're so
a core aspect of Snow White is that she's innocent and kind-hearted, so she's unaware. So it's not that she's dumb. She just has no experience with people who wish her ill intent.
Yeah.
Regardless, my overall point was that it had nothing to do with her looks.
Yeah.
I would like to revise my answer from the superpower conversation.
And in the Disney universe, talking and thinking are like kryptonite. I mean, Snow White doesn't sweet talk the huntsman into letting her go. He falls for her after watching her creepily from a bush.
Yeah. What you were saying before about people,
guilt.
When people were complaining about like EFAP saying like the straw man, oh, they want everyone to make logical decisions 100% of the time. That criticism can be levied here to the Crack crew because they don't understand anything about storytelling.
Yes.
It's like, because they think, because again, they're looking at it, it's like, she doesn't like, because it's like, she doesn't, and it's like, I'm sorry, she's like and it's like, he felt guilty because what he's essentially doing is murdering a 14-year-old because which like, again, that's really like, the whole point is that she's like evil and egotistical, but like, what he's essentially doing is like murdering a 14-year-old, but it's like, oh my god, what? But like, because again, it's called show don't tell for a reason, because people often, because the best thing to do is assume that your audience isn't children, so don't spell it out for him. It isn't spelled out that, oh, he feels guilty. The audience just inherently knows that, but it's like, but again, like, because again, it's like for a lot of people, it's like, especially shills, it's like if the film doesn't essentially tell us everything that it's happening, then it's just off. Then it's just nothing. Then it's like, then it didn't happen. If the film doesn't explicitly tell it doesn't happen. And then they mix that up with characters that are actually flawed, and that's where the whole media literacy straw man comes from.
For the kids by running off into the woods and deciding to take a nap in 7 tiny unmade beds.
Like, she was what was she supposed to do? Where was she supposed to go? Relax at a hotel?
2 hours, 23 minutes.
Belonging to 7 tiny, filthy, backwoods, sex-starved miners. Yeah, that
he didn't. What?
Could have gone really different.
Okay.
It almost does.
Well, she didn't even know
moments away from
that's who
murdering
they
her
were.
with a pickaxe, but then they see her pretty sleeping face and they fall in love with her, right? And then she.
Because they thought an intruder was in their house.
Yeah.
Yeah, the reason they were gonna kill her was because they thought an intruder was in their friggin' house!
Somebody touch my spaghetti.
Oh my god, that's a classic meme.
I mean, it's the wrong fairy tale, but still.
Yeah, oh my god, that I remember when that meme was like, that's a classic meme. God, I remember when
good?
I touch on my spaghetti meme.
Oh god.
Yeah. I remember when that was everywhere.
Eats the coma apple, and then they think she's dead, but instead of accidentally almost burying her alive, they want to just
you are
look
describing
at her
the
pretty
plot
sleeping
miss.
face.
What's the
And
problem?
that's her thing. She's attractive to look upon only when she remains stationary and silent.
So, unlike you?
That's so stupid, I'm not even going to dignify it with
Yes.
She's not even criticizing anything.
I'm going to bring this up because this is a thought I've had a lot recently.
Again, I get the Cracked is a comedy channel, but like, this is such a hilariously bad reading of the film. Like,
she's not even criticizing it. She's just describing what happens as if it's supposed to be bad.
But
speaking of
something
which,
I've noticed a lot recently, I just want to get this out. It's that as a kid, we're always taught to not take things at face value, read between the lines.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like nowadays adults are too focused on trying to read between the lines that they neglect the face value.
Yes.
Or they don't.
Yes.
Or either that, or they do the Patrick Willems approach and basically call actual reading between the lines nitpicking, and you shouldn't do that. Just focus on the pretty colors, and again, it's just that's a whole other can of worms. But yeah, it's like
and it's a fan of
We got
Patrick Willis
25
too.
open cans of worms here. We just need to
I actually
put down the can opener.
Actually found Patrick Williams from a pretty cool like video he did where he basically made a fake X-Men trailer that was in the style of Wes Anderson, which was actually pretty cool. So I actually kind of watched that before I watched his actual content. Then I found his plot holes are bad video from aren't shut up about plot holes video from EFAP, and yeah,
that was one of the worst video essays I've ever seen.
Yes,
basically the hidden, it's like I don't hate Patrick Willems in terms of like how he is. Like I don't have like the same hate. Like Ant's
I do.
like
I have a
Patrick
voodoo
Willems
doll
is
of him.
basically a less stupid version of Ant, essentially. Like I don't hate him. I'm kind of on the fence about him, to be honest. I don't hate him, but I don't like him either.
I just think he's dumb. I
Yeah,
don't think that
yeah, but
means
aside from
I hate
being
him. I just
dumb-
think his media takes are dumb.
Yeah.
And I ate that shit.
After watching several videos about Rachel.
Oh wait, he brings up more videos.
Ate that shit.
After watching several.
Oh wait, hold on. There's more.
Matt Walsh.
Matt Walsh is an
Matt Walsh is a
absolute-
terrible
I could
media
go on a
critic.
full tirade
I'm just gonna be
about how
flat out
much
honest.
of
Matt Walsh is a better political pundit than he is a media critic, and let's put it at that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh my God. Don't even get. I mean, even then, he's not that great at a media critic. The only reason anyone takes Matt Walsh seriously is because he's a member of the Daily Wire. The dude is a brain dead old man in the body of an adult.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to go. Okay. Geeks and Gamers is at the bottom.
Videos about Rachel.
Oh, here's more. Woke Hollywood. Okay, I think I've heard of Woke and but I don't watch them, and of course,
Critic.
The Quartering.
Rachel Zegler. It became really clear very fast what the problem was. 80% of these videos were about her saying something kind of cringe, kind of uncomfortable about Disney's history. 20% were politics, and
yeah, it's almost like some of them were political.
It's almost
That
as if she
sums up
didn't
everything
understand the
with Disney's
story she was
20%
going to
politics,
be playing in.
It's almost as if she's a brain dead moron.
Because that's the thing. Rachel Zegler essentially demonstrates the exact thing that Anne has been criticizing in the entire video. But the reason Anne was criticizing it was because he was criticizing from a generic studios or bad thing. Because they don't want to criticize a specific person unless it's someone who demonstrates like something that they disagree with, like Gal Gadot or Gina Carano,
yeah,
or several, or even George Lucas at times, because it's like, but if they, unless they demonstrate wrong thing, they will protect these people because in their mind, the actors, the writers, the directors are perfect little angels who cannot do anything wrong. When that's not true, actors can be just as faulty as the studios themselves. They're just too cowardly to actually criticize them.
everything right there.
Also, yes, it is. Although it isn't Rachel Zegler's fault.
That's
it's not entirely her fault. But is it entirely her fault? No.
Is it
But if you don't
mostly her
think that
fault? Yes.
Then you're just being disingenuous.
It's not like anyone who got mad at her has ever said, say, something really embarrassing during an interview that showed how little they know about the subject matter they're talking about, right?
I'm sorry, wait, let me hear that again.
That sums up everything right there. It's not like anyone who got mad at her has ever said, say, something really embarrassing during an interview that showed how little they know about the subject matter they're talking about, right?
That's so dumb. Oh, you did a stupid, you said stupid thing. That's like literal whataboutism. Oh,
Yes.
hey, you, random hypothetical
whataboutism.
person who's watching this
Yeah.
video. You must have said something stupid, right? So leave this major Hollywood celebrity who has more publicity than you, more to lose, and more to everything than you. So just that's such a false equivalency, my God.
Yes.
There's a reason people
Oh, this clip!
Oh, boy.
My god!
Oh, for fuck's
Okay,
sake.
let it play for the person who hasn't seen it. Okay.
Okay, no, I'm sorry. I am so I'm sorry. I have seen so many critical drinker haters bring this clip up because they almost always bring it up like it's their friggin' smoking gun.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna watch this clip, and I'm gonna say I'm gonna say what I think the greater context is after.
I'm
seeing the
sorry.
clip. How about that?
That's in so many videos, and I get like
Jeremy, can you play it,
jump
please?
scares.
Can you play
Like
it?
in the West, they're starting to draw more and more towards, Korean or Japanese filmmaking. It's precisely because it's a bit different from what we get. And that's a good thing.
Yeah, what is the most recent Japanese film or at least entertainment that you enjoyed so far?
What am I thinking of? See, a lot of them would be older ones, like Old Boy, for example. I really enjoyed that one. I know it's not Japanese, but.
But look, we know the.
Bro, he literally admitted he knows it's not Japanese. He's just thinking of
But
East
again,
Asian in general.
Was that it? Was that it?
There's more. He lists
Yeah,
off
that
more
was it.
films,
Basically,
but
that was it.
that's the
He
general gist.
literally
Yeah.
used I don't even know what clip that's from. I don't even know who this other guy that's interviewing him is. I don't know where that is. But these people somehow found that clip, and they basically use this. See, Drinker messed up because he couldn't name an old Japanese film.
Yeah, because he was asked a question on the spot.
But again,
I remember. You guys know Your Movie Sucks, right? Adam
Yeah.
from YMS.
YMS, yeah.
Yeah, I remember. I remember when he made a much more damning comment by saying that until Citizen Kane, like people were just randomly recording shit without any rhyme or reason. How can you ever say that as a film critic? That like that's just insane.
Say that again. Wait, what?
Yeah,
what
look
did
it
he
up.
say? Wait,
He
what?
said that prior to Citizen Kane, like filmmaking was just a bunch of people pretty much just being recording shit randomly. I couldn't believe I was hearing that.
What
Like,
the fuck?
That is a level of ignorance. That's a level of ignorance.
That is pretty
can only
fucking
aspire.
retarded. That is really
Yeah.
fucking retarded.
Drinker said that?
YMS
no,
said
YMS.
that.
Your Movie Sucks, the YouTuber.
Oh yeah, yeah. YMS is someone who I have very mixed feelings on. I actually got into YMS through his video on Cool Cat Saves the Kids.
Oh yeah.
And I kind of watched a lot of his stuff. And here's the thing. Here's the thing about YMS. I agree with him on certain things. Like, I do think he's a funny dude. I agree with a lot of his criticisms, and I do. But the problem is, a lot of the time, he can be very pretentious. He can say a bunch of very stupid things, like with his recent defense of Amelia Perez. And yeah, he's definitely one of those.
I do not understand why he likes that movie so much. Like,
Probably because he's pretentious.
He's a big
But I
snob.
like YMS, but I dislike other aspects of YMS. He's kind of what I consider a subset of creators called a Jekyll and Hyde creator, which is basically a creator who I like some elements of, but dislike other elements of.
Yeah,
I call
me on Twitter.
I call those
Just me on
people
Twitter.
I call those people mixed bags, but yeah.
Yeah,
well, go ahead.
Also, there goes Ant bringing up yet another clip that is completely irrelevant to the video. It's like, what does Drinker like calling a Korean movie a Japanese movie like have to do with this whole shit show? It doesn't.
He was comparing what Drinker said to what Rachel said, being like, "See, Drinker made a mistake too, so he's one to talk."
It wasn't even. It wasn't even real. It
Drinker's
wasn't.
mistake isn't even equivalent.
It wasn't
because
even a
he's
mistake.
being
It's like
asked
it wasn't even a
being asked to list the
mistake.
film, and Rachel Zegler is being asked about her understanding of a story which she doesn't understand, and she's about to star in it.
And again, Drinkers wasn't even a mistake. Like, Drinker knew Old Boy isn't a Japanese movie, but
He immediately corrected himself.
yes. Yeah.
But again, it's like these people.
Well,
again,
to be fair, he said Korean and Japanese.
Oh yeah.
Again,
yeah,
these
even that.
people-
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, he did in that clip. Yeah.
Yeah,
yes, that's a Korean film, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's just thinking in the ballpark of
A
East
really
Asia.
good Korean film, I
Yeah.
should add. A really good Korean film,
Oh,
I
yeah,
should
that's
add. I
one
would
of the
say it's like
yeah.
best ones.
Okay, let's keep going.
The reason why these people are targeting both Rachel Zegler and Halle Bailey because of her role as Ariel, right? We know the reason.
Because Ariel isn't black. Simple as that.
Because again,
Snow Brown in the Seven Dwarves or whatever.
And skin white as snow. Skin white as snow.
because criticizing unnecessary race swaps totally means that you don't want to see black people in movies entirely.
Yes.
No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't.
I am not taking any of these criticisms seriously. I am not taking any of these criticisms seriously from Ant when his side is criticizing these movies for not having their minority actors be the right shade of skin tone. Like they did this for Aladdin. They did, and they're doing this right now for Lilo and Stitch. I do not care. You are not one to talk.
Yes.
And when it comes to original adaptations starring minorities, they always bring out the wheel of excuses. Oh, it won't be promoted. Oh, it'll be subjected to more racist backlash. Oh, blah, 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 blah. So let's just keep pumping out these unoriginal race-swapping nonsense, because I would rather let entertainment die in an uncreative sea than even consider agreeing with a chud.
Yeah. Again, merely race swapping an actor or actress is not sufficient justification to make a movie. That doesn't make
it. That's what they think
it doesn't somehow make it good.
They just want a virtue signal while consuming the latest Disney garbage. And what better way to do that than race swapping? And again, it's like, there are good movies. Again, there are so many good examples. Again, the movie. Again, there are so many good examples of like minority-led movies. Black Dynamite, Good Burger. Sorry to Bother You is a woke movie done right, and I could go on an entire tangent, but like, yeah, movies like that. There are original black movies that are great, that are well made, and one of them's a kids movie, by the way. But again, no, we should keep getting garbage like this because it's not enough to virtue signal over an original black product. No, we need to let virtue signal over a product based on a established IP, so we're hip and with it. How do you do, fellow kids? We know the big pop culture landscape. Please, I'm a human. I'm a human. I'm a human. I know things.
Yeah, sure you do, pal.
These people don't care about movies. They just don't. They just want products on a silver platter.
Yeah.
Skin white as snow. Sure, okay.
Deja vu.
What did you just say?
Halle Bailey looks exactly like Ariel, complete with the red locks in The Little Mermaid. Incredible singing in the film. Artie seems very close to the...
That is a total lie, and Ryan is here is basically saying that. Oh, hey, there he is. Yeah. Hey, Mamalaji. Anyway.
The animated version. Some people question that a little bit because obviously Disney was very proud 3 years ago when they announced that Halle Bailey would be playing Ariel. They're happy to push inclusivity and diversity in their films. They were proud when they said that we're not going to cast Ariel as a white girl, we're going to cast her as a black woman. So when this tweet got around, people very much questioned what disgusting film is actually talking about. And obviously, the backlash has been real and it has been powerful when it comes to YouTube.
You know, people are going to act like, oh no, the Little Mermaid, I'm here because I'm a Little Mermaid purist.
Oh yeah, this clip. Oh yeah, I saw this clip. I don't mind Trevor
Noah is a
Noah,
fucking
but,
idiot.
Oh my God,
He is, yes.
I mean, I live by the philosophy that everybody's an idiot in one way or the other. So
Come
nothing
up with
really
all these
matters.
bullshit answers. They'll be like, you know, you look at the history of the Little Mermaid. I'm sorry, the history of the Little Mermaid? You mean the imagination of the Little Mermaid?
Yeah, imagine
Didn't he call
caring
for, like,
about an
didn't he call
older
for
movie.
deaths in, like,
Oh,
one of
I know.
his
That's such a
talk shows?
mind-blowing concept that people would care about a movie made so long ago. It's like,
Yeah.
it's so weird, so
Kino-
icky, and it's like what kind of take is this? Like, wait, what do you think? Do you really think that there's just no history behind The Little Mermaid? That it was a film that was just. I'm sorry. I'm so sick of
No,
this.
I was just gonna correct. I don't think Trevor Noah called for violence on something. There was a clip where
he did look it up. He did.
There was
like
a clip where
he
he called for segregation to come back. I think is one of the things was.
Oh yeah,
yeah, and he's gonna have to enforce that with violence.
If this clip, like, I'm honestly like, I don't hate Trevor Noah is someone I'm neutral on, but this clip is just so disingenuous.
Trevor, if you hate,
Trevor,
if you hate America so much, go back to South Africa. We don't want you here. Go. Anyway.
History of the Little. You mean the imagination of the Little Mermaid? If you look at it, it's
Considering that Ariel is a mermaid and Snow White is a fictional character, I don't think there's any
Oh, for fuck! Hang on, let him finish the sentence. Let him finish the sentence.
Let him finish.
Okay.
real problem with race swapping. And
For fuck's sake!
Wait. Let's say that again.
Let's finish.
A mermaid and Snow White is a fictional character, I don't think there's any real problem with race swapping. And if
Let him finish his thought. Let him finish his thought. I want to hear the whole
problem
part.
with race swapping, then let me tell you something else. I don't think a Middle Eastern man had blonde hair, blue eyes, and white skin personally.
I mean, true. But
I mean, okay, here's the thing though. Here's the thing that frustrates me.
Ant isn't all right with that depiction. He wants it changed, and in other contexts, he's okay with racially inaccurate casting. So he's completely inconsistent on this.
It's like, yeah, the problem with the whole race swapping debate is it's like he is like there like a lot of the time people say, "Oh, well, you're so mad at black race swapping from white to black, but you never criticize white to black race swapping," which, like, okay, fair. But there are also people who criticize adaptations that go from black race swappings that go from black to white, and then also but then also don't have the same criticism that go from white to black. Like, kids, you're both hypocrites. Like, just because the other person is a hypocrite, that doesn't make you any less of a hypocrite. It just means you're both hypocrites.
Also, I totally just dented my table when I threw my headset onto it. Oh, fuck.
Hypocrites hypocrites apart strong.
Yes.
It's like, yeah, just because one group is a hypocrite, that doesn't absolve the other group of also being hypocrites. Like, for example,
this is just one big gladiator fight where they're the same, but they're fighting each other like they're
So his whole so let me get this straight about his Jesus analogy. So is he basically saying that because Snow White and Ariel are fictional characters, Ariel being a fictional creature no less, it's okay for them to be it's okay for them to be race swapped, but it's also okay for Jesus, who's debatably real and debatably fictional. I'm a bit lost on what his argument there is.
I mean,
and of course,
the point is people we haven't seen ourselves, essentially.
And of course,
Ariel is based off of Nordic mythology. So
it's not like they don't do swap because, like, I know there's places in Mexico which have Jesus with a darker complexion.
Mhm.
You know,
I mean, Jesus,
because
Jesus is Jewish, and Jewish people are pretty damn pale, man.
No, well, Jesus is God, and God has no fixed race. He's every race simultaneously. So that's why people depict him in a different way.
No. Also, it's a way to it's also a way to assimilate people into the religion
convert,
and whatnot.
get people to convert. Yeah.
But so, like, where's the argument?
There is no argument here. Fucking Christ, man.
I mean, it's There's just a bunch of people screaming at each other. That's all.
But that's a conversation we can hold for another day. This is a trend for these critics.
I definitely had fun playing a particularly challenging game
Oh my god, my guy, can we stay on topic of Snow White for
Spot
fuck's
the White
sake?
Guy with this trailer, because damn man, this one shows enough to fulfill Disney's entire DEI quota for the next 2 fiscal years. For example, check out this collection of Jedi Padawans and see if you can identify the one.
Yeah, his whole fucking point here is that Disney hates white guys. That's his whole point here.
Again, what Dricker is doing is he is criticizing the exact performative, progressive bullshit that people can't
Go
criticize.
unfiltered, Jeremy. Go unfiltered.
Cow chips.
But like, yeah, it's like so many Drinker haters like clip this scene out of context. This scene out of context. Drinker did this to basically point out, oh look, see, they're trying so hard to include it, but they don't include, any small, other people. Like, they're desperately trying to appear more progressive by not including this group and focusing on it. But then they're like, oh, well, Drinker just wants all of them to be, like, straight, white, and male. And it's like, it's such a straw man. Because again, these people don't watch.
Call him Mr. Fantastic with the amount of reach he has.
You got it, Flash. Anyway.
One demographic that's mysteriously left out.
These folks tend not to mind when, say, a Romani character like Magneto or Scarlet Witch is played by a decidedly not Romani character.
Because
the moment...
Because those people are so fucking rare in Hollywood, it's just better to go with someone who can match them. In that case, it's just a matter of fucking pragmatism, my guy.
That and several people criticized the race swapping of Katara and Sokka in the awful M. Night Shyamalan live action.
We don't talk about that. That doesn't exist.
Yes, I know, but I'm bringing it up to prove a point. And they've also criticized they've criticized the Ancient One being
a white lady.
Yeah, and that in particular is weird because people the Ancient One's race and sex was changed because that was deemed to be a harmful stereotype for some reason.
It was also to get the film shown in more Chinese theaters because Ancient One's Tibetan.
Yeah.
It's like, and it's like, oh, they don't, and again, like, people, like, again, that's the thing. Again, when Drinker does stuff like that, he's criticizing Disney for being performatively progressive. He's just using different words than someone like Ant would say. So people like Ant and others will disingenuously clip chimp him to make him out to be, like, racist when that's not what he's doing. He's criticizing Disney for being performatively progressive, and that's what the entire anti-woke movement is supposed to be about, but they just don't like how they're doing it in a way that rocks the boat. They want to do it, but they only want to do it in like a measly, centrist, light-hitting way, whereas people like Drinker do it with full force, and they're like, hey, you can't do that. Stay in the boat. Don't rock the boat. We don't want the boat to be rocked.
Yeah.
Well, too bad, Ant. The boat's going to be rocked, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Yep.
Just because you're seasick doesn't mean...
One of the oldest characters in fiction happens to be played one time by a woman who isn't white.
Well, then everyone loses their minds.
Okay, and people will also freak out when the opposite happens. Like, this is what with whitewashing. Do you say the same thing when that happens? No, you are one of those voices that does it. So why is it wrong when people are consistent in wanting accurate race, or race accurate casting based off the original stories, being consistent? Like, it doesn't. The same person who's saying that Scarlet Witch and Magneto should be played by Romani or Jewish actors are the same people saying that Ariel should be played by a black actress, or that Snow White should be played by a white actress. These are all the same people. Like your straw man fails immediately when somebody doesn't fit into it. Like or your argument fails when somebody doesn't fit into your straw man.
Exactly.
I wonder if they had this much of a problem in the 90s with this version of Cinderella as well. Oh wait, probably not, because they probably never even watched it.
Okay.
So what?
Almost as if the main premise of that is that they were making a distinct version that isn't based off of the actual story. You can be inspired by something and make something entirely separate. Like,
also,
nobody has an issue with that.
I don't see anyone getting upset at the Miz, or sorry, the Wiz, for basically being like a black take on Wizard of Oz, for example. So yeah.
Also, Ant, you just debunked your own point. They're not mad at it because they haven't heard of it. I'm sure if they did know about it, they would criticize that just as much as the Rachel Zegler thing. You don't know that they wouldn't.
If somebody said,
being disingenuous.
if somebody was inspired by like an African story, like an old African story, and made like an all-white told a story with an all-white cast, he would criticize that. Like he wouldn't be okay.
Genshin Impact.
He would be okay. Like he would be okay with an all-black cast for a European story, but he wouldn't be all right with the opposite. An all-white cast for an African story. African story.
Because the thing is, both the pro and anti-race swapping people are hypocrites in their own way, but the pro-race swapping people use the anti-race swapping people's hypocrisy to go, see, look, they're hypocritical, so that magically makes me right, even though I'm also a hypocrite, just in the opposite direction.
Yeah.
No, you idiots, both hypocrites.
The world is just a Super Bowl where everybody blindly roots for their own team.
Pretty much.
Pretty much, yeah.
Pretty much. You know, all the
That's the political climate we're in.
Yeah.
The political climate is supposed to be a draft. You get everybody you pick the best players. That's the way it goes. But instead, it's a Super Bowl where you just blindly root for your own team.
Yeah.
Like, we have so many political parties, and like, I know this is unrelated, but just quick tangent.
I mean, not really, because that's exactly what I was saying. But
the only ones that get attention are Democrats, Republicans, and maybe Libertarians on a good day. There are so many political parties he cares about, nobody pays attention to. Why aren't we giving any of them a chance? We're just letting them sit there and do nothing.
Yep.
I mean, I feel as though you're kind of disregarding like big tent parties, like Dems and Republicans are supposed to bring in people who think like them, but it's just like a nitpick. It's nothing.
I mean, no, you're right.
Yeah, if you were a fan, you would have known that Disney had long created Black Mermaids. Like, they did this, they spin off all their movies, they've had tons of them.
Okay, but Ariel herself isn't black.
Why can't you make a distinct movie about a black mermaid? Why does it have to be Ariel?
Because again,
because that has brand familiarity.
That's another thing. These people love to pretend that there's like no difference between criticizing a race swap and criticizing an original black character. Like, it's such a disingenuous argument. Like, no, just because we're criticizing a race swap doesn't mean we're criticizing of a black character. That is such a disingenuous straw man.
Man, I'd be dead if I had to drink every time I heard the word straw man.
They've had tons of them. They had like a Black Mermaid. She did sign language. It used to be a cartoon when we were kids. People don't care about it. They're like, it's never happened. It's just.
No one is saying there's never, because again, like, to reiterate my point, the problem isn't that there's a Black Mermaid. The problem is that that Black Mermaid is supposed to be Ariel. If like, let's pretend that this was not the Little Mermaid, that Halle Bailey was a mermaid in an original Disney movie that just happened to be about a mermaid. she wasn't Ariel, she was an entirely new character, there would be so much less backlash.
A whole lot less, yeah.
Only backlash. Only backlash with people who will say an A unoriginal or B it'd just be actual racist.
Yes.
Exactly. But again, these people want to protect. But again, these people don't want to address the argument because at the end of the day, they're so that's the thing. They're so focused on representation that they will just accept any representation, even if it's actual garbage.
Yep.
And we'll just. It's like, again,
Any representation is better than no representation, even if the representation is horrible. That's the mindset.
Exactly. In their mind, oh, it's representation, so it's better than nothing, so eat it. But it's like they make these incredibly disingenuous arguments like, oh, you're criticizing a race swap, then you just don't want black people in anything. And that's not what that means. We just don't, and again, they always use disingenuous strawman to somehow prove that, oh, we actually do hate original characters because we might one of the most disingenuous ones is, oh, well, you say for us to go make your own, but when we do make your own, you still call it woke. Yeah, when it sucks, we're not going to break, it's like this. Hey, we hate race swapped remakes, make an original game. Okay, so it's an original thing, but it still sucks, so I don't like it. Oh, but you said you like original things. Original things can still suck. We're not gonna blindly. Again, we want it to be original, and we want it to be good. We don't want to have low standards. Just why can't you understand that? We want to. That's it. God.
Yeah, and on that note, I think I'm gonna hit the hay. It was nice doing this with you guys.
Alright, bye, Kino.
See ya.
Moving on.
Now I'm the only one who's.
It's not about race. It's just about realism.
Calm.
It's never happened. It's just look. Here's the thing. It's not about race. It's just about realism. I'm sorry. What?
Here's the thing. Disney can absolutely make a live-action Snow White.
No, they can't.
No,
but because they feel beholden to their echoes,
they can. It just won't be good.
Yeah.
It will always be a struggle. They can't change Snow White because doing so will create a vision of Snow White that does not match with their corporate mandates. Attempts to modernize Snow White tend to fail more often than not because they can't divest themselves from the original fairy tale to tell a compelling story. You can't just adapt 6 pages from the Grimm's Brothers and call it a day. You gotta expand it. Mirror, Mirror, Snow White and the Huntsman.
Just make it a short film then. Not every film needs to be an hour and a half. You can have a fucking half-hour movie, you dumbass.
That's called an episode.
So what?
It's it's God. I look again at the very least more focused. So
I mean, I think part of it is what theater would play a film that short from a big company.
I mean, they could make an I think they could make an assload of money doing that. A lot of people be
but then they wouldn't get anything. They wouldn't get anything from concessions because the movie would be so short. Nobody would get hungry.
Oh, I mean, people already bought. Oh yeah.
Or they could
buy stuff ahead of time because they know they're going to be sitting there for a long time. But if the movie's going to be just 30 minutes, why bother getting?
I mean, in my experience, people always go to Quick Trip before. They never buy at the fucking theater. But yeah, I get what you're saying.
Or they could do those things where they have a short film play before the movie. That's slowly starting to get.
Yeah. Like a Pixar short film, yeah.
Yeah, Dogman. Yeah, I actually went to see Dogman a while back, and they had a bad guy short film play before the actual movie. That was pretty good. They could do that. I am honestly glad that's making a comeback.
Mirror, Mirror, Snow White and the Huntsman. Those are recent attempts, relatively recent, to modernize Snow White, and both failed.
Yeah, because they sucked.
Well, I mean, yeah, but at the same time, those and several other adaptations justify themselves by being different. What does this add? What is this add? Why do we need this? We don't.
There's tons of TV movies from the 2000s, 90s, 80s, even the 50s had a couple adaptations that all struggle to really make Snow White dynamic and interesting. It feels like a very bland retelling of the Grimm Brothers fairy tale because it takes 8 pages and adds filler, much like
That and there are several mockbuster movies that solely exist to cash in on the existing Snow White film and fool grandmas, but that's
Yes.
entirely separate. Oh.
Yeah.
like how the live-action Disney films of today take 90 minutes and add 40 minutes of filler, an hour of filler. That doesn't really contribute to the narrative's flow. And unlike Cinderella, you can't really take the plot of Snow White and transplant it somewhere else. It's a little more difficult, because Cinderella is not a story about an idealized person, but about a person who overcomes adversity and rises above it, which is a far more universal story, and a story that lends itself better to reimagining. Cinderella has had multiple fantastic adaptations over the years. In my opinion, the best one is Ever After, which reimagines Cinderella not as a fairy tale, but as a historical romance. The characters are placed in a more historical setting. Cinderella, now Daniela, is still abused by her stepmother and, well, one stepsister. This is the one that did the good stepsister upgrade far before Disney ever did. Daniela is a well-read woman. She's raised on moralist philosophy, and she's willing to both street fight and upturn the aristocracy for the good of the poor. She's a literal social justice warrior, and yet feels totally anchored to the time she is written in. Everything Daniela does is rooted in things she could realistically do and realistically think in this era. She's influenced by Thomas More, who was a contemporary thinker at that time.
A servant is not a thief, Your Highness, and those who are cannot help themselves.
Really? Oh, and the magical elements like the fairy godmother? Yeah, now it's just Leonardo da Vinci. So, totally more normal than a fairy godmother. Just Da Vinci showing up. That's a thing that happened all the time, right? Okay, some of the movie is...
they said Leonardo da Vinci, my brain auto-corrected Leonardo DiCaprio. Because I wasn't looking.
You got him say. Speaking of Leonardo da Vinci, Hudson Hawk's an awesome movie. And that made me think of Hudson Hawk.
And speaking of movie, Ant, what does this have to do with your point?
It's less silly than a pumpkin turning into a carriage. The story of Ever After ends up being dramatically different from the story of Cinderella, yet it still hits the core beats of the Cinderella story. Daniela is still the same person as Cinderella at its core. They just added some things to her that make her more interesting in the setting that she's placed in, adding a dynamic flow that doesn't remove the core of her character. She is a poor, abused child who gets a chance for happiness. Beauty and the Beast and Cinderella, I think, are the easiest of these fairy tales to readapt in different settings. Beauty and the Beast had the classic 40s film, the French film, the George R.R. Martin penned 80s show, and Beastly. Yeah, I bet you forgot about Beastly, didn't you?
It was shit.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Beastly was garbage.
I'd never heard of it, and I'm glad I did.
Dude, instead of the beast getting all furry, he gets a bunch of fucking body tattoos.
Oh my god, that is so stupid.
Dude, everyone treats him like, oh my god, you're so ugly, but realistically, everyone be like, dude, what fucking parlor gave you those sweet body tats, my guy?
Yeah, honestly.
Nessa Hudgens from High School Musical.
Dude, I'd fucking kill to have those fucking tattoos. What the hell is everyone smoking when they say they suck? My god. Anyway.
I wish I forgot about it. It's pretty bad.
Well, at least he has that. At least he knows that. That's him right there.
He looks like a Deadpool from X-Men Origins Wolverine.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Nothing Disney has ever done is worse than Beast.
I can name 10 things.
That's debate. Beastly is pretty bad.
Beastly's trash, but at least it's not modern Disney trash.
Okay. There's one thing he mentioned in this video that was objectively worse.
What?
live action Mulan.
Oh yeah, there you go, man. So what the hell? He's saying fucking live action Mulan's better than Beastly? What the hell, Ant?
But again, Beastly isn't like that's another thing. They will insult, like they'll also insult, like they'll have no problem insulting punching bags like Beastly, for example, but also stuff like Secret Invasion, Book of Boba Fett, Elma, and several others that everyone can agree is bad. Oh, and the Star Wars Holiday Special.
Yeah.
That everyone can agree is bad. Like, wow, this random...
I like learning about Chewbacca's family, though, you know.
Chewbacca's family's actually canon, yeah.
Yeah, truth be honest, the Star Wars Holiday Special is honestly a guilty pleasure. Like, it's bad, but it's a fun kind of bad.
So bad it's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, plus it gave us riff tracks riffing on those commercials.
Yeah.
I love riff tracks.
I've seen worse.
The themes are fairly universal, but also the characters.
Yeah, I know, you could have not had a mouth.
They are not simply the fairest of them all, or girl who falls asleep for a year or so, or 16 years in some, or centuries in some versions of the fairy tale. Rather, it's about people who deal with societal conflicts, maybe an abusive parent, maybe they're not appreciated in their time, maybe they're just quiet and reserved, and they're put in a scenario where they have to deal with conflict and grow as a result. These stories are easy to adapt. Same thing with Little Mermaid, a character who is centered on dreaming about being on the surface, longing for something they don't have, and getting a chance to have that. It's a far more human narrative than necessarily someone put into a death-like trance or the fairest of them all. They're more human, more dynamic. This is why adapting Sleeping Beauty is so difficult, and why adapting Snow White is so difficult. Snow White at its core is, you have a young girl who's pure of heart, she's loved by a prince, envied by her mother, and she's chased away and has to hide away with some dwarves. She falls into a death-like sleep, or outright dies in some versions, and true love's kiss saves her. In all cases, what happens to Snow White happens to her. She doesn't make any choices of her own. She doesn't play an active role in her narrative. And because there's no choice, that makes for a very boring narrative in longer forms of storytelling. That's why in the Snow White film, the dwarves are the main character, because the dwarves are allowed to make choices. They're centered as the drivers of the narrative and the plot. The movie...
This video is so frustrating, because it's like... Okay,
it's because he makes a lot of good points, but then he just doesn't stick with making good points. He just goes on attack mode.
It's just
like there are like
what is it?
Actually, there is a good video criticizing Disney and their corporatization buried within it, but it's ruined by so much irrelevant padding and so much. But the chubs don't say any of this. They totally don't, guys. Don't actually watch their videos. Listen to my out of context clips. Again, it's so frustrating. There are good points.
It's
in
like,
they just don't want to agree with them because they have the gall. But again, they want to say these positions, but they don't want to agree with people like Drinker, who, while saying these positions, have beliefs they disagree with, which I think is so ridiculous.
Dude, like, it's like I don't even think he's really buying all what he's saying. He's like, oh, this is the actual problem. The actual problem is that they're all black characters and they were developed over the course of an hour and a half. It's like, I think he's just, again, he's padding his fucking video out, and two, he's only really saying this so that way he can avoid talking about the damn issue. It's like, for fuck's sake, Ant, get a fucking script editor!
I mean, yeah, seriously, like, I have a...
Anyway, 2 hours, 45 minutes to 32.
Yes.
I have an Ant, and I, like, script my videos, like, almost all the time. Like, I literally write my scripts, like, way ahead in advance on Google Docs and set up, like, my script in front of my computer to record what I actually say. Like, I don't know if Ant scripts his videos or if he just goes off the fly.
I think Ant writes his scripts as he's making the video, like, legit.
Well, I mean, there are multiple times you could see him looking to the side to read something.
Ant, you really need to, like, script your videos.
You really need to cut the pad. Ironic that you're complaining about the padding when fucking 50% of your videos are padding!
Insert Monty Monty Python and the Holy Grail. Get
on with it!
He focuses more on the evil queen.
Can we get a holy hand grenade to this thing?
Active characters in
Yes.
Snow White's passive
I have a fucking
narrative.
gun for
And
that, though.
Is it a holy gun? Was it blessed by the Lord?
No, it's just a rubber band wooden gun, sadly. But anyway, go on.
Okay.
Drivers of the narrative in the plot. The movie focuses more on the evil queen and the dwarves because they are active characters in Snow White's passive narrative. And the problem is you probably go, okay, well then change the plot. Well, if you change the plot of Snow White, it no longer is Snow White, and that's the key problem with adapting Snow White with the intention of because if you're not loyal to the original narrative, Snow White very quickly unravels and becomes unlike Snow White. And to illustrate that, I want to reference a recent video.
Not always, because there are ways in which you can take liberties to a story and still have it feel like the original story. Like there are several ways of like adaptations where you can take liberties with a story and still with several like fairy tale adaptations, and you can still tap the feel.
Here's just a random idea I came up with off the top of my head, like just literally 30 seconds ago. What if the effect of the poison apple isn't instant? What if she has to go on this journey to find a way to break the curse that the prince joins her or whatever? I don't know. The dwarves go too.
I'm shocked that nobody has made a movie about that yet. Like that seems like such a novel idea. I'm not even joking. I'm legit shocked that no one has thought of making that. Yeah,
I came up with that. I came up with that in an instant. So it's not that difficult to come up with new ideas for old stories. I just did one right now. Now, if there is a movie like that and we just somehow don't know about it, just let us know. But
let us know in the comments, people.
The YouTuber.
Fuck! Not this bitch! Ah.
Oh yeah! Oh my god! Ant has been bringing up I actually don't really know much about neuralities because
she's cringe
or like new. So I know that they're cringe, but I've never really like watched any of their videos or videos talking about them, so I don't really know much. So I can't really speak on neuralities. So
Reference a recent video by another YouTuber. The YouTuber Neuralities recently released a fairly extensive video outlining the history of Sleeping Beauty across multiple iterations, outlining how she theorized the story changed as it was retold by different people in different cultures over literal thousands of years. And after a while, when you go back far enough, while you can still see the building blocks that became Sleeping Beauty, the story barely resembles the story that we are familiar with. But the core tenets are still there. Building blocks that get rearranged to become the various fairy tales we now know and love. And what Neuralities theorizes, again, her theory, not necessarily mine, is that elements of Snow White, Sleeping Beauty, and Rapunzel are somewhat interchangeable, and so much of what we know of as separate fairy tales have common ancestry.
All stories are one story.
Okay.
What is your point, my guy?
I don't know what the point is, but this is some interesting information to say the least.
Cool, and can you make a separate video about this?
He talked about Rachel Zegler throughout most of the video. Like he only really talked about Rachel Zegler at where? Really? I can't even find this. Oh, right here. This tiny segment.
Which is fine, unless you're the Grimm's brothers in 1812, in which case you've got a big problem. They're not just writing down one story, or 8, or 50, they're making a collection of 86 distinct tales, and of course they want to document their own version of Rapunzel, Snow White, and Sleeping Beauty. But this is the first time in almost 200 years that these stories have been put back in the same book together again. And now that they are, their sources are starting to look eerily similar. So, what do you do in that situation? You change some things. You adapt and swap them around.
Too much of certain tropes leads the story becoming more like one of these other fairy tales. As such, I theorize that the reason why Snow White proves to be so hard to adapt is because the filmmakers are too afraid to take the pieces apart. And justifiably so. You take the pieces apart like a Jenga set, the whole thing falls apart. An early report claimed that Snow White in Disney's new Snow White film would no longer be with the dwarves, but rather enchanted creatures. This omission was changed arguably sometime during production, which led to the very quickly reimagined versions of the dwarves we see on the film. And it's clear these dwarves are shoddily CGI'd. It looks very rushed. It's clear the creatives were afraid to change anything about the film.
I mean, it's like even Grace Randolph was like, "Oh my god, those dwarves look awful."
It's like kill them with fire. Anyway.
It's not like they could have, just employed people to play the roles.
When Grace Randolph thinks something is when Grace Randolph has a good take, something's bad.
Yeah.
In fear of pissing off the Disney hierarchy, and the Disney hierarchy wanted to follow the same formula of fixing common complaints about the film, but also keeping it similar enough so it's recognizable as a brand. The dwarves being de-emphasized is not just in the film, but also the title. It's no longer Snow White and Seven Dwarves, it's just Snow White. Snow White has eclipsed the dwarves, the main characters of the movie, in order to center herself, a character who is passive, does not make big changes, and doesn't make many choices. And because of that, you gotta change the structure to fit a new narrative. But if you change the structure, you change the story. You see the problem with this, right? And she's...
Again, that's not entirely the case.
I just gave an example!
Because again, there are instances... Because it's like, yes, obviously there are cases where an adaptation can be so drastically different from the original, but there are certain ways in which you can basically take an adaptation and change some things around while still keeping in tune with the original story's message, with the original story's intent. It's just a very careful balancing act. And to be honest, I would rather have a movie that takes so many drastic changes with the story than something that's just a clinical carbon copy of the original. If you're going to remake something, give your own spin on it. Be original. Like the Alice in Wonderland 2010 movie was pretty bad, but it was different. The war story, the story was dumb, but it was different than the original. And I would rather have movies like that than stuff like Disney, than remakes like The Little Mermaid that do virtually nothing, or Mulan that actively take away from the original. I get that that's just my opinion, but I'm sure I'm not alone in thinking that.
No, you got it. Absolutely.
She's asleep for a good chunk of the act. How can a character be an active presence in her own story when she's asleep for a third of the story? You see, that's the key problem. You can't change that. You can't make that fundamental alteration. You can't make the Snow White an active character from beginning to end of your film if a third of the film she's asleep.
She doesn't have to be active for the entire film.
Here's another idea I just came up with the top of my head. While she's in the sleep, have some kind of dream sequence where she goes on a mental journey.
There you go.
Look, I'm brainstorming shit over and over.
Hollywood, here's your next ideas, man, right here. Flash Static.
Because it's like the thing about it is you can make an original version. You just have to work extra hard to do it. You just have to making a remake is something because it's it is a balance. Because it's Ant's right in that it is hard, but Ant's oh well, it's impossible. No, it's not. You have to have a balancing act. You have to go from left to right. You have to think how, because it's like, again, you look at something like Fractured Fairy Tales. Fractured Fairy Tales, the Jay Ward show, most of the time, their stories, at least the ones that are based on fairy tales, have no relevance, have taken huge liberties. Like, they change stuff around, they make ridiculous decisions, but at the same time, they still keep the core elements. They just reimagine them in new ways, capturing the essence of the original fairy tales while adding their own crazy new elements. So it can be done. It just needs to you just need to do it in a way that works. It's a very careful balancing act that, while challenging, isn't 100% impossible.
Yeah.
Like, what's she gonna do? Dream? Have like a Freddy Krueger style fight with someone in her dreams? No, it's not gonna work.
We just said it could, you dumbass! For fuck's sake.
I mean, it doesn't. Okay. Not like not Freddy Krueger style fight, but like definitely like more of a emotional, mental kind of battle than like a physical one. About insecurities and whatnot.
Yeah.
Although Freddy Krueger and Snow White crossover would be awesome.
Mm-hmm. The crossover you never knew you wanted until now.
You just see Freddy Krueger in the corner, like casually eating like the poison apples with no effect on him.
Yeah. I think we just gave the Asylum a new idea for a movie.
There you go, Asylum. You don't even have to credit us. Although we would like it, we could really use the money.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Because you removed...
I just want this on my resume.
...the narrative, both in terms of marketing and in terms of presumably the plot, you've de-emphasized the actual characters that drive change in the plot. So it becomes a big mess, And further, at a certain point, if you keep changing things, Snow White just becomes Aurora. They're both doomed to sleep till true love's kiss wakes them, and the main characters, like the prince or the dwarves or the fairies, whatever, they confront a villain that's responsible for making all this happen, and the villain's supposed to scare children. Yet the problem is...
Did the dwarves ever actually confront the queen in the evil queen in the original?
I don't think they did, no.
Definitely in the Disney flick, though, yes.
Yeah, no, like, the queen died because she stood on a rock and She stood on a rock and that, got struck by lightning and she fell to her death. I don't think they ever actually had a major confrontation. Obviously the prince did with Maleficent, but I don't think the dwarves did.
Maleficent was in Sleeping Beauty, though.
Yeah. No, I'm saying his other example, yeah, obviously the Maleficent, Prince and Maleficent.
Well, according to Jeopardy on the NES, Maleficent was in Snow White.
Oh my. Well, hey, that lends credence to the whole thing that there's like way too many similarities between Sleeping Beauty and Snow White.
Or maybe it's
Damn it, Grimm Brothers. Do your job.
Yes.
Maybe it's a Mandela thing, like the same.
You gotta do better, Grimm Brothers. You gotta step up.
Anyways.
Snow White and Sleeping Beauty are so similar as narratives that the more you change, the harder it becomes to adapt. It's a tricky situation, and there is no easy solution.
Yes, there isn't an easy solution, which is why I said it's a balancing act. Because, yeah, it's not easy. It's not supposed to be easy. You're making a movie, and it's a balancing act. It's hard, but not impossible.
Unless you fundamentally alter the narrative, like Disney has done in the past with stuff like Once Upon a Time, where the story is fundamentally different than the Snow White narrative. It follows the plot beats, but kind of follows up with what happened afterwards, and it kind of crosses over with other fairy tales. And as a result, it feels a little more nuanced and complicated and interesting. But Disney's not going to take that big of a risk. They want to keep the recognizable IP of Snow White.
Dude, fucking Once Upon a Time was on ABC, which is a channel owned by Disney, you dumbass. For fuck's sake.
Not to defend Ant here, but to be fair, the thing is, it wasn't meant to attract Disney's main audience. Like, you don't because it's like airing a channel, like airing a show on, it might technically be owned by Disney, but it's not like it's aimed at Disney's main audience the way this actual Snow White movie is. Like, it's like the same thing with DComs and the stuff on Disney.
And what's Disney's main audience again?
Kids.
Main demographic.
I
do you think kids really care about this movie that's coming out?
No.
Okay, we go back to the question. What's Disney's demographic?
Kids.
I mean,
or is it people who are mentally equivalent to it?
Yes.
It's basically three. This movie is aimed at three people: kids, nostalgic adults, and the shells.
Yes.
But here's the thing. Snow White came out in 1937. You have up to 4 generations of people with nostalgia for this. How do you fuck it up?
Because it's Disney. Because it's another live-action remake. Because that's all it is.
And those aren't the excuses. Because we've gone over ways that things can be fixed, but they just don't do it.
Exactly. And what's worse is that with both this and the Little Mermaid remake, the problems become even worse because with the Little Mermaid remake, Disney realized, hey, wait a minute, we can just infuse our remakes with culture war bullshit, and so we can be able to get away with making incredibly mediocre BS and just blame the criticisms of the critics being racist. And now things are going to get worse because we're going to get more culture war, rage-baity live-action BS, and the conversation is going to get worse and worse and worse as entertainment and creativity continues to die.
Right.
And this is why I mainly consume Japanese media these days.
And why I mainly consume weird, obscure media and the few tiny hints of media. Like, I only
you need to either find something completely separate from the Western Hemisphere. You gotta find something that's so small and grassroots that has none of this culture war BS attached to it. Just pure passion for the craft.
Honestly, unfortunately, people. Do you have any? It is so hard to find movies aimed at people like me nowadays because it's they don't want to make fun comedies anymore. It's always just major franchise garbage or depressing horror movies. I enjoyed Red 1 even though it wasn't too well received. Oh yeah, I didn't see Red 1. I didn't really see Red 1 because I heard a lot of people hated it.
Well, that's the thing. People went into it with the wrong lens. People looked at the trailer and somehow thought, "Oh, this is supposed to be a happy Christmas movie." No, it is a freaking action comedy. Why are you going in with the whole the true meaning of Christmas mentality? That's not what this movie is.
I mean, yeah, I think
it's just a Christmas themed buddy cop movie.
I mean, yeah, basically.
As a result, it feels a little more nuanced and complicated and interesting. But Disney's not going to take that big of a risk. They want to keep the recognizable IP of Snow White without changing too much, and that's where the problems come in. And this isn't even unique to Disney's adaptation, but all Snow White adaptations that try to divest Snow White from the dwarves or other fantastical elements in favor of a darker, or maybe more satirical edge. Something that pokes fun or is aware of the original fairy tale and tries to divest from it. Not like an Enchanted or something more original, but more like Snow White and the Huntsman or Mirror Mirror. They both encounter the same problem as this.
Hold on, one thing. Enchanted wasn't really meant to be a parody of just Snow White. It was more meant to be an amalgamous parody of
damn near every other Disney flick, yeah.
It's not comparing it to the more straightforward Snow White remakes. While not entirely inaccurate, is a bit of a different. I wouldn't say disingenuous, but it is kind of a bit of a different ballpark.
Yeah.
Because it's that's a.
You're supposed to be next door. You're not part of this party.
It would basically be like comparing. It would basically be like comparing. I don't know what the I think it would basically be like comparing Spaceballs to Star Trek: The Motion Picture.
Yeah.
Yeah. No.
this film does, where they feel
Let's finish this with ludicrous
unlike
speed.
the original source material, the film does, where they feel profoundly unlike the original source material the further they divest from that original fairy tale.
True, but I would definitely prefer that to generic carbon copy garbage.
Yep.
The story loses its sense of identity. It ends up feeling like just another fantasy film.
Now, I'm gonna track back to something we were talking about all the way at the beginning of this about how the Stitch movie. Like I was like talking about how I enjoyed how the characters and everything felt similar, but I did notice there were a couple jokes in there that were pretty much carbon copies from the original. Case in point, he took the red one.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, at the same time, it's funny, like, hey, look, they said the thing. It's also like, oh, but they could have done something different.
Yeah.
And, like, at what point does, hey, they did the thing translate to again?
Yeah.
Anyway, continue.
When someone creatively bankrupt tries to tell Snow White, like, say, The Daily Wire.
One of the simplest rules of
Oh, here we go. Oh, yeah, here we go.
business is that if you don't give your customers what they want, then sooner or later someone else will. And that, my friend, is when you go out of business. Such is the case with Snow White and the 7 diverse, non-specific, vertically challenged creatures. A movie that somehow managed to combine all the worst aspects of modern movie making with an actress who embodies all the worst aspects of modern actors.
Weird.
For every failing company that's too stupid or too arrogant to give their customers what they actually want, there's another up-and-coming hopeful waiting to swoop in and take the crown. And in this case, it's the Daily Wire, a conservative media outlet that started dabbling in film and TV production over the past couple of years.
Thing about the Daily Wire, I mean, yeah, okay, obviously the Daily Wire Snow White movie ended up going belly up because Brett Cooper quit, but if it would have come out, it honestly would have at least been more interesting. Like,
yeah.
Again, a place like the Daily Wire making a Snow White movie, okay, I mean, it wouldn't be good, but at the very least, it would have a new element to it. With a more conservative lean to it, there could be, I mean, obviously the Daily Wire probably wouldn't do that given how, they're basically as ideologically driven as Ant and people like them are. But at the same time, it could even if it wouldn't be a good remake, it could have at the very least shown a different perspective that would at least somewhat justify its existence. Whereas the Disney live action remake just straight up wouldn't. It just straight up wouldn't, because we all know what it's going to do. It's going to retell the same story from the same angle, but with a couple minor changes that either don't affect anything or actively attack or actively detract from the movie. Whereas the Daily Wire one would at the very least make some interesting changes that I mean, we'll never know.
We argue, it all comes down to the Daily Wire one wouldn't have any need to pander to the 1930s film because they're not Disney.
Pandering to their conservative fan base, but at the very least, it would have made for a more interesting experience. I mean, we'll never truly know because since Brett Cooper quit, the movie was thrown in the trash. But even before Brett Cooper quit and the movie was canceled, I still thought this would have probably be garbage, but at the very least would probably give us a different perspective, because a company like the Daily Wire has a perspective, for better or worse, that hasn't been explored in the original movie, and at the very least could be, like, I'm not saying it would have been good. It probably would have been just as trash as the Disney live action remake, but I would take a different flavor of trash over the same trash we've been consuming for years and years and years and years.
But if we use Ant's arguments that he's made in this very video, then the this movie would not be caught in between the rock and the hard place of trying to find something, a different way to tell a story without, straying too far from the brand they're trying to. Because at the end of the day, the Daily Wire one wouldn't have to worry about straying from the established brand because it's not their brand.
Yeah.
It's not what people are coming for. So, all in all, it would only depend on how well they do the one thing, which is how they change it and make it different. Which, as you said, it could be bad, but at least they only have to be bad at one thing instead of two.
And while they haven't exactly rocked the world of entertainment to its core, movies like Run, Hide, Fight and Shuts In proved that they can make relatively decent films on a fraction of the cost of Hollywood's. And the other day, they dropped their first teaser trailer for Snow White and the Evil Queen, something that I honestly thought was a piss take at first. But nope, it's a legit movie that's actually getting made and released.
Not anymore, it isn't.
Not anymore. Not anymore!
Nope. Not anymore.
What do you mean Drinker wouldn't have any idea about that, but still.
Yeah.
Released next year under their kids' production company Bentkey, starring Brett Cooper as Snow White.
Let's ignore.
Again, Drinker literally had no idea that would happen, and he had no idea that would happen.
Calm down. Ant bad. Move on.
The fact that half of this trailer is just stolen assets from Snow White and the Huntsman. The problem is this film is just a knockoff of Disney's knockoff of their own film.
What?
So you're fine with Disney making a knockoff of their film?
Well, because their IP.
Knockoff of the knockoff. No.
So on one end, one side of this is just pure artistic bankruptcy, like running out of ideas. But on the other hand, that one, the other hand looks like it could potentially reach into copyrightish territory. That's where the issues lie.
Okay, but like,
but doesn't change the fact that it's still like just both are bad.
The thing is, the only problem with Ant's only problem with it is because the Daily Wire is a conservative company, and
yeah.
I mean, I'm not defending Daily Wire. Daily Wire is definitely not the best company, and they have done things that are just as pandery as Disney is, like with their stupid chocolate campaign, like with or without nuts. Yeah, we stole this joke from Epic Movie. Yeah, imagine but like Ant's only problem with it is because is because it's conservative, and that's really about it. And I'm not saying that isn't a problem, but like hating but like that's really the thing. Like again, we'll never know, but if the movie would actually have been good, it probably wouldn't have been. But like Ant's only being biased against this movie to the extent that it is because it's made by the Daily Wire, a company that he disagrees with.
Yeah.
Like, why is it okay for Disney to make a knockoff of their film, but not Daily Wire making a knockoff of their knockoff? Why is that an issue, aside from the fact that you disagree with... Again, imagine, and again, if this was a completely independent company, if this wasn't the Daily Wire, it was some random company making a film that didn't express their politics in any way, and was just making an independent, like, Snow White version to supplant the Disney one, Ant would have been totally cool with it.
Yeah.
But because the Daily Wire, and he is politically opposed to the Daily Wire, then that means that it's bad. And again, I get having that bias, but at the same time, and even though I'm also politically, ideologically opposed to the Daily Wire, I'm still like, even though this probably would be bad, it would at the very least be more interesting than the original because it would have all these elements. Meanwhile, Ant's like, it is conservative, therefore bad. And it's like, again, no nuance, team sports, blah blah blah, and bad.
Which makes it a shallow copy of an already shallow copy.
No.
Like, no, again, we're going off of conjecture, but like, that probably isn't what would happen, though. Again, both of us are at an impasse because we have no clue how this movie would come out. No additional, like, the only footage of this movie that exists is the original trailer, which showed basically nothing. But at the same time, given how the thing about the Daily Wire's movies are, I've never seen of one of Daily Wire's full movies because I don't own Daily Wire because I'm not paying for that.
Mm-hmm.
Closest I've probably come is like Lady Ballers, and even then I've only seen through clips. But the thing about Daily Wire, while a lot of them are pretty bad, at the very least they are like original. Again, even though they are heavily conservative, Daily Wire's films, at the very least, have their own style, so to say. They don't feel like a film that other people would make. So, here's the thing. And again, we don't know, but and even if it is a copy, so what? So what? That doesn't and again, so what? And the thing is, Brinker himself didn't even 100% defend it in that video.
No.
He just defended it because it could have possibly, he wasn't 100% on board shilling for it. He said that it probably could still be bad, but he still rooted for it over the bland live action cash grab because it had more of a chance. Because it was coming at it from an angle that no one else had, whereas Disney was coming from it at the angle that we've heard from Disney several times. But again, that would require nuance, and nuance is kryptonite to people like ants.
It's just not Disney Snow White, which is kind of boring. It's just the more conservative version of a story that's already fairly conservative.
Wow. How is the original?
Move on. Let him speak. Let him speak.
Let him speak. Okay, yeah, right. I'm sorry. You're right.
But another film from the Daily Wire is unremarkable. Half their film output is the equivalent of them reply guiding Disney to minuscule results outside of Mr. Burcham, which is unintentionally hilarious. No, but
oh yeah, Mr. Burcham. Honestly, yeah, Mr. Burcham. I haven't really seen a huge. The closest I saw to Mr. Burcham was Spilling the Milk, riffing on it, and oh my god, it is one of the most nothing things. Velma was rage-inducingly bad. Mr. Burcham is just such a nothing show. In one ear and out the other.
Yeah.
I literally saw this. It's not even offensively unfunny. It's just, oh, that exists. Spilling the Milk's riffing and jokes were far funnier than any joke in the actual show.
Mm-hmm.
I have not watched any Spilling the Milk videos in a while.
Yeah.
And none of the grifter responses actually addresses the core elements of why Disney Snow White is dead on arrival.
Yes, they do.
They're just not the fucking reasons you want it to be dead on arrival.
Exactly. Exactly. The thing about it is, they are criticizing it for the reasons that you and other people are criticizing it. They're also criticizing it because, hey, Rachel Zegler is a friggin' moron and saying a bunch of stupid stuff, and her casting isn't good for this movie. And you're like, no. Don't criticize the corporate overlords, please. No. This is just a chud, Master Disney, please. I'm not hateful. I'm not a bigot. Because again, people like Ant are cowards. In order to not be a shill, you don't need, the difference between a shill and a non-shill is that non-shills are never terrified to say what they actually think, whereas shills like Anthony constantly tiptoe around and completely avoid, specific things like Rachel Zegler. And again, I've literally heard them say that. I've literally heard people make memes about, oh my god, I like this movie, but I can't say that I dislike the movie because I would be associated with a chud, which is so lame. Like, imagine, like, I don't dislike WAP. Like, I dislike WAP, the Cardi B and Megan Thee Stallion song. I'm not going to be like, oh, well, I mean, I dislike the song, but I don't dislike it for the same reason Ben Shapiro does. No, I'm going to be like, no, I dislike WAP. WAP sucks. Oh, what's that? Ben Shapiro also dislikes the song? Okay. So what? I still dislike the song. I don't fucking care. I don't care about Ben Shapiro's opinion because Ben Shapiro is not me. I know that Ben Shapiro dislikes the song for a different reason I do, and as such, I don't care because I still dislike the song and will express my dislike. And if some idiot thinks that I dislike WAP for sexist reasons rather than the fact that it's just a bad, poorly made song, who cares? Oh no, some random person. I either explain it or clear it up, or I just don't care because it's one random person. Like, they're so scared of appearing like an evil chud that they don't want to actually engage in criticism. It's cowardice mixed with cognitive dissonance, and it's so frustrating that it continues to spread itself within discourse like a parasite.
Discourse, the fuck with your discourse. Anyway,
back onto the thing. We still got 4.5 minutes.
Let's go.
Padding.
All of their superficial complaints could be addressed entirely, and the film would still be dead on arrival.
Okay, that's why those aren't the only complaints.
Because none of these people, none of these conservative reactions to Snow...
Not all of them are conservative. Like, I mean, obviously some of them are, but, like, pretty sure a lot of them aren't. You just think they're conservative because the person I disagree with is conservative.
Yes.
Actually understands the core reason why this film is going to be terrible.
You just don't get it, do you?
And do you understand... And do you understand that not everyone thinks the way you fucking do? No one is looking at, oh yeah, the reason why the Disney Snow White is going to be dead on arrival is because of fucking, because of like the fucking way the story's evolved over the years, in addition to other, and no one fucking thinks the way you do. No one is legit, no one is that much of a fucking hyper autistic nerd like you, to where, like, we fucking think this shit, like, daily. It's like, oh my god.
I noticed how throughout this entire video, he does not engage with a single actual clip. Like, obviously he's not going to play the entire clip. The only times he ever actually plays a clip are, like, is like a couple Clip Chimps Critical Drinker clips. One clip of Jeremy from Geeks and Gamers saying that Rachel Zegler is unlikable, and one clip that's a meme reaction.
Yeah.
That's it. The rest of it, he just shows the thumbnail and is like, those videos are bad, I promise, even though you didn't show footage of them. Because again, he isn't actually interested in engaging with the other side. He just wants to clip chip the other side and point to his audience. See, the people you dislike bad. People you dislike bad because content
and
like
the whole thing, he's just spewing nonsense that the average Joe just does not fucking care about. I do not believe. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Or he says he says cakes that are so cold they make Antarctica look like a volcano. Like, oh my god, Disney live action remakes are unoriginal? Wow! What's next? Are you gonna tell me that the friggin' sky is blue?
It's like and no one really gives a damn if, like, no one gives a damn about, like, the history about these. It's just ridiculous.
I don't want to be that guy. But there are volcanoes under Antarctica.
Yes, there are. Yes.
So
anyway, we should probably move on now.
We're at almost 3.5 hours.
Whoever is
fucking
acting in this
Christ.
movie, it doesn't matter.
Yes,
Whatever
it does.
script they write, doesn't matter.
Yes, it does.
However bad the effects are, doesn't matter.
Yes, it does.
These elements can be the best or worst, and the film would still be terrible. Because the problem forever has been the entire approach to these live-action Disney films. That approach is wrong. Snow White will still
who are you
suffer.
to say that?
It will suffer the worst, actually. It's the Mulan situation all over again. If you fundamentally change Snow White, you'll miss the point of the story. The only difference between Mulan and Snow White is that the Mulan Disney film, originally made in the 90s, diverged heavily from the original epic it's based on. Snow White didn't. It's a story stuck in a mold, and they can change specific things, superficial things, but only until the mold is pushed, not broken.
And of course they want to document their own version of Rapunzel, Snow White, and Sleeping Beauty. But this is the first time in almost 200 years that these stories have been put back in the same book together again. And now that they are, their sources are starting to look eerily similar.
Mulan can exist outside of its mold. Snow White can't, unless it wants to resemble one of the many other fairy tales it shares its core tropes with. Would it be possible one day for an ever after style movie of Snow White to come about? Yeah, of course. In fact, Snow White has been reimagined. As I mentioned before, once upon a time. It is a Disney show. It does reimagine
so you know
Snow
it's a
White,
Disney show,
and it's
eh?
successful at it. It's not the greatest show.
But that's the problem. That was like over a
but
decade ago,
it's
wasn't
still
it? That's a different Disney.
Adaptation of the fairy tale. And unlike the modern wave of live-action films, the storytellers had confidence enough to take the basic elements of the story and run with it in creative and interesting ways. It reinterprets these characters in wild, fun styles. Even back in the day when Disney planned on a direct-to-DVD sequel to Snow White, yes, this was a thing that they were planning for a very long time.
It said prequel right in the picture.
Bravery. To play with their ideas, to play with their brand, the way that's exciting. The iconic Snow White ride at the Disney parks, the one that terrified children throughout the 80s and 70s, that at least took a risk, a big risk. And it pays off. It's legendary among park enthusiasts as one of the most frightening rides of that era. But these films feel safe. There's no risks involved. Even casting Gal Gadot as the evil queen. Who's the most recognizable woman we can cast? Gal Gadot. There we go. The problem is they're afraid to take risks with a story that needs risks.
That's an entirely separate issue.
Yeah,
Like that,
and you
that
know
point,
what?
that
And
point literally went
part of the
nowhere.
problem is people like you. By making these stupid criticisms and shielding them from people like Drinker, you are encouraging Disney to make these stuff. You're encouraging Disney to not take these risks and lump all the critics in as bigots. You are
We've
literally
made this point multiple times and bad.
You're acting as Disney's PR team. That's what you're doing, and that's what people like you have been doing this entire time. What you're basically doing is stabbing yourself in the leg and are wondering, why does my leg hurt? Like, that's what you're doing. You are causing this. People like you are causing this by making it so nobody can criticize these movies. And then they'll go, oh, well, we're just calling out the chuds. Really? Because it doesn't seem like you are. You seem like you call out everyone regardless of political motive. And the few times you don't, the few times it's someone like Ryan George or Moist Critical or someone who has such a positive reputation that it would be that if you criticize them, you would be met with a legion of haters and you would be immediately exposed as an idiot the same way In Praise of Shadows was when he criticized Wendigo.
Yes.
From its other contemporary adaptations. And because of that, because of the stagnation, because of the refusal to change, because of the fear of backlash, and thus changing course and changing direction as the film goes on in production, because of all of that, and because of the core issues with adapting Snow White as a story that they seem to be refusing to address, this film is dead on arrival. Ended the video. Credits are rolling. I want to issue...
Oh, thank God.
Oh, thank God we made it out, everybody! We're free!
This whole thing has been the worst stress test for my ADHD I've ever had.
I'm so sorry, Flash.
No thoughts. This was better than the last Ant video that I covered because at the very least it had a thesis, and I definitely agreed with Ant in this video more than I disagreed. But the problem was his takes were so unbelievably cold, and he continued to lay. And there was definitely a lot less Rachel Zegler defense and Chud bashing than I expected when I first walked in. He definitely, he surprisingly spends a lot more time articulating pretty decent points against Disney, but the problem is he's too cowardly to bring them to their natural conclusion, and he continues to shift blame over to people like Drinker, acting like the very same criticisms that he brings up and people like him bring up are somehow bad simply because Drinker and crew express them in a different way, a more edgy way that's more in line with their style. So definitely not Ant's worst video, but it's still an Ant video. So take what you can get, Ant.
Flash, any closing thoughts?
I feel like I'm going to stay away from these anytime we do an Ant video.
All right. If you guys enjoy this video, please give it a thumbs up, comment below if you thought of the video, subscribe for more videos like this, and we'll see you guys next time in the backseat. Take care.
Boo.
Later.